Hey, well, first of all, I'd like to say, and I hate you're gonna find me, because I want to be a part of this fucking dumb wannabe tennis tour.
You know, I think they got his testicles so far up their mouths that this is bullshit, you know?
I'm not thinking about that right now. I'm just thinking about having won the world title and hopefully trying to win another one someday. You just drop in and just smack the quarterback, drop down, say, bah!
Well, I'll tell you, Stu, I did battle some humongous waves.
Oh, just the paper, please?
Oh, surf looks good, Alvin.
Not bad.
Ain't that swell? With Jed and Vaughn.
Oh, those guys are back!
Get a haircut.
You're on the stick heaps more. Oh, yeah. So, Shane Ackerman was in here 2 days ago.
Oh, really?
Which is
Sick.
fucking just a random coincidence that, we've been chatting for months.
Yeah.
And then just managed to link it up a couple of days ago. And now you're in here.
Yeah, classic.
And he said that the last time he saw you, you just were parked next to each other at Lennox, a wave that, like, you know, he would never really ever think about surfing.
Yeah.
But you're on the stick, so you're there more often.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, because he's, I think he was, like, going spearfishing or something. I think he was looking for fish, so, but my partner lives down there, so I'm always, like, there every weekend and surfing.
Right. Well, we'll just
as hard as it is to surf there. It's
Yeah.
like,
Fucking
all locals and that.
Yeah.
I just stay away down the end. So
That's the go.
yeah.
I mean, I'm so grateful for the locals and the fact that there's no surf cam and they've just managed to preserve one little slice of old school Australian surf culture
Yeah.
on the entire fucking East Coast.
Yeah, it's good. It's like, it's such a sick wave. Just the challenge of getting off the rocks is like hilarious.
Yeah.
I love that.
There's a
Like,
few little barriers for entry and getting waves out there that
Yeah.
definitely keep the hordes at bay,
Yeah.
unlike Snapper,
Yeah, exactly.
which is where you're from.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, where are you from? Goldie?
No, from Kiama originally.
Oh, are ya?
Yeah. I live
There
next
you
to
go.
Dylan Longbottom.
No
Yeah,
shit.
he got me into kind of surfing there. Like he was the guy that, was the big guy kind of.
He was
the
Doug
charger.
Guy back in the day. Yeah.
So he was like, and we've always stayed in contact and surf when, a few different times like Tassie and places like that we've linked up and Tahiti and things like that. But always remain good friends.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, because Dill was the guy who kind of opened up the South Coast to stick world, I feel like he was kind of I don't know, he's the first to surf waves like twos and stuff on a stand up from memory, and and probably the first guy to have clips out the verge, and he was definitely kind of surfing the same terrain as bodyboarders, and definitely heavily influenced by the bodyboarding scene, which had already been surfing these waves for years before someone attempted to surf them on a stand-up. So what's your relationship with surfers, and how did, what was that dynamic like back in the day between you and Dill and the surfing and bodyboarding scene? Because it's the South Coast of New South Wales, it's similar to, I find, places like Tahiti and West Oz, where, bodyboarders get respect because they're taken off on waves that stand-ups don't want a bar of. They're often surfing the same waves, but you're out there and you're watching guys sand on waves that you're kind of shaking your head going, fuck, that was psycho, and you're getting barfed out of them. So there is like a lot more respect, it seems, like between surfers and bodyboarders down that way.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was pretty young, so I didn't really, recognize that too much. Like, I actually was surfing before I was bodyboarding. And then there was that huge push. I think it was in 94. And bodyboarding was like kind of, going crazy, So, and all my friends were doing it, or most of them. So I just gravitated towards the bodyboard, and then just started doing comps and started doing all right. So, you're seeing, you're getting your little ribbons and things like that. So it's, kind of spurs you on to, stick with it. But yeah, I mean, Dylan was just a good guy. I remember, one decent day when it was at Jones's Beach. It was pretty solid. I think it was probably only 4 foot from memory now, but I fully lost my board, had no fins on or anything, and I was just screaming out his name to come and save me. He couldn't hear me, but I'm just like, that's all I remember. Like I had the full on, like it was winter, I had a jumper on because you think you're going to be warmer getting into the ocean. So I'm just sinking, thinking I'm going to drown. I just remember yelling his name out. He couldn't hear me at all. So then I was like, I'm going to have to get myself in here. And then paddled in. I was like, oh, that was all right. But yeah, that was kind of like my first memory because I didn't know Dylan that well. I just knew him because we lived on the same street and, we'd see each other, but he was like the big dog there, like everyone knew he charged and he was a good surfer. So it was, after that was my first memory of Dylan.
No way. That's so crazy. Grew up in the same street as him.
Yeah.
And how big of a deal was he back then? Like, what period of his career was this roughly?
I'm not sure, but it was just that, any big day he was the guy. He was out there, everyone, he was well respected. You could just tell by the way everyone acted around him, so he was just like, really good surfer and, he was the it kind of guy, there. Yeah.
I feel like that period too, like bodyboarding was extra relevant because surfing could not yet surf these waves. So like it's interesting, like the period you came up in, it's like, you're just on the back of, I guess, Mike Stewart's been in his prime for a long period, and then you kind of seeing the tension films come out, and all of a sudden it's like, fuck, like this is almost like a new sport, or it's new terrain in the surfing world that has not yet been mapped by stand-up surfers. So bodyboarding kind of goes through this boom period, it feels like, in the mid-2000s, and there's sponsorship money flowing, and like it's you can't help but watch it and admire it, particularly those tension films. Those early tension films were fucking mind-blowing to me, just the waves being surfed. Where were you positioned in relation to all that?
I mean, with bodyboarding and, since you just get kind of pushed into those sort of waves like pretty early on. And it's so different to, what, now that I'm surfing a lot more on a surfboard. So it would be so foreign for a surfer to, hunt down those short, slabbing, peaky, kind of below sea level style waves. Not as much now, but back then it was. So, there's, when there was just a huge push to find the heaviest, slabbiest, craziest wave you could. And it was like a really, really good time. But it's like, you get, just pushed into these gnarly situations so quick. I remember I was 15 or 16. And it's probably the norm now. Like I see some of those guys in Tahiti, what they were doing, but this was a contest and I was 15, or I think I just turned 16, and I was petrified because I hadn't even seen a wave, kind of like Tahiti, I mean, I'd surfed pipe a few times, but Tahiti was like a whole different thing, so, and everyone was going, it's going to be 20 foot, it's going to be 20 foot. And I'm sleeping on the floor. And I just remember, like, I had a glass of water there and was doing the full Jurassic Park thing, just fucking, doing a wave would hit the reef and just shake the glass and the water would just, like, go like this. And I'm just like, I'm not sleeping the whole fucking night. I get up and there's, like, debris across roads and shit, and the comp's on. And the comp director goes, we've got an ambulance on the beach. If anything happens, we'll shift you off to the, hospital. I'm like, fuck. Like, I'm just petrified. So it's just like, it's almost like then making it as a bodyboarder was expected to be a maniac or some type of charger. There wasn't any other route. You couldn't be, a free surfer. Like someone like Rasta that was, obviously that guy charges unbelievably too. But, predominantly he's, riding nice point breaks and fucking beautiful waves. Whereas bodyboarding's like riding the most ugliest shortest, heaviest waves where there's no one around, you know, and it's, with zero backup and safety measures or, you know, and there was a little bit of money, but not enough to warrant what was happening, you know, most of the time. And that was only the, you know, top guys. And then there was a lot of other guys, like you said, Shane Ackerman come in here. I mean, those guys, they didn't get paid a thing, or don't, or, you know, would have rarely have got, you know, over 5 or 10 grand the whole year to do what they do. So it's like it's a really kind of raw kind of, you know, sport to, you know, do, you know, like there's no real financial kind of gain in it. And I don't think there was for a moment, but I think that I don't know if it'll ever return. And I think it's almost a good thing, because you don't want, you know, a pathway for kids to, you know, push them into something that is, you know, inevitably going to end them up with, you know, nothing, or, you know, spend that much time in a sport and then have no qualifications, or, you know, not have a career or whatever they want to do, you know. It's just, I think having no money in the sport is like actually a really positive thing, you know.
It's interesting, and it's really shaped the culture, like, because of the lack of money, you're doing it for shits and giggles, and you're also sending it so much harder than high-profile surfers, like stand-up surfers who are there with stickers on their boards and these huge sponsorship deals, and they're shoulder hopping and don't want to bar it. That must be a source of incredible humor, and like, I feel like bodyboarding culture, it's very sarcastic. It's very like there's just so much piss taking and so much like the refusal to acknowledge how psycho it is what you guys are doing. Like, nothing's ever that psycho, or like if surfers were doing what bodyboarders were doing in that period, like, it would have just been fucking cover shots and endless jibber jab about this guy being such a hero and a legend. But it's happening every other day in the bodyboarding world, and no one gives a fuck.
No, not really. I mean, it was definitely competitive time. Like, you'd want to be, you know, on the biggest and best wave, but it was, I mean, there was a few different little teams around that would kind of like, you know, that you wouldn't talk to everyone, you know. So there was that, but generally it was like, you know, just people, you know, getting together, you know, 5 to 10 people and just hunting down a, you know, different location, whether it be, you know, down the southwest, WA, or wherever really, you know. But we always seem to, you know, meet, you know, surfers. Like, I lived with Dean and Sean Harrington in WA, and we lived together on the Gold Coast, and, you know, they were part of that too. They were right in there. So, and, you know, from what I've seen, you know, those guys go just as hard, like it, you know, and they might have had, you know, more financial support and, you know, chasing those types of waves, but most of the guys that gravitated towards that, they're pretty crazy type of guys, you know, like the Maruba guys were on that, like Richie Vass and Marky Matthews, and that were always, you know, we loved hanging out with them. That was good times, like, you know. So it was fun. They'd ring us when the swells were coming. Should we get on it? Should we not? You know. So that, it was a general kind of group of people, you know. But now I think, I mean, I haven't, like, originally we stumbled across the Right, you know, that's pretty famous now. But that was like, we were surfing a left across, you know, the bay, and then every now and then we'd just see this massive gaping hole.
Is that,
you know?
that left? That fucked up left? It almost looks like the right, but it's a left.
Yeah,
it's in
so there's
a
a left.
few videos.
Yeah,
that
there's a
thing's
left.
Fucking psycho, man.
Yeah.
And that's just across, wow.
It's just across. So there was a day that it's like, that doesn't handle as big, but it obviously gets as big, but just doesn't handle the biggest wells. So, and it was like, we were looking across and seeing these massive holes in the ocean, just like, whoa, but then it just vanished. But it was a particular day where it was like, we lost this guy at ski. They were supposed to meet us and they didn't turn up. So we had to pull, you know, go back and figure out what they were doing, and they were just mucking around on this bommy, fucking just with no fins on, just doing the full glide on a bodyboard, which is kind of fun. But and then it took another year maybe for it as well to get big enough to go back and get that wave.
Wow, man, that's a crazy chapter in surf history. So there's like that discovery period where it's you guys, it's you and your mates are discovering like that left on the other side of the right, the right, like Cyclops, Salty Dogs. Like there's just this period of discovery off the west coast of Oz that it's such an important period in like the evolutionary history of surfing in a sense. Like it was just like full like outer space exploration, and the photos and videos coming out from that point from the bodyboarding world were completely mind blowing, because you kind of looking at these waves going, fuck, they're waves, but like you got to have a special kind of brain to be able to interpret a line into them, and like maybe they're towable, but then guys like Brendo, yourself, other people are paddling him. Yeah. And also getting fucking scorpion face first into the bottom.
Well, Brendo's like, I mean, that whole region, is like, I mean, it'd be happening, there'd be so many days where there's just not anyone around. And there's probably waves out there that no one surfed that are just so crazy. Maybe not so much the wave. I think Cyclops is actually a really, really perfect wave, but the consequences are just freaking too gnarly for anyone to. It's probably the only wave that no one goes back to and goes, oh, I want to get a better one, because everyone knows how nuts it is and how psycho.
What is the deal out there? Like, kind of paint the picture for us, because you never really get an idea. You get a little bit of an idea of what it looks like from the channel or whatever in the footage, but it must be a whole different beast when you're there.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like if you. It looks like it's like a pumping Kira, basically, or rabbits, like I don't know if I can say that, but it's that style of wave, and it's so perfect, but it's so shallow and so dangerous that it's like, if you come off, you're going to get absolutely, slaughtered on the reef, like just, 2-inch barnacles, just, really threatening. But it's like one of the most perfect waves. It's just too heavy to. It's kind of like that wave John surfs now, and a lot of the time with that rip bowl that forms every now and then, where it's just so hollow and so fun, but the consequences are soft sand. But there it's just like so full on, and it's really hard. Like paddling, you can paddle it probably easier than you can tow it, but it's super, probably sharky, really sharky, I guess, and then. Towing, you can't really see a proper line come through, so you're just seeing a swell, and then it makes it easy if someone's bobbing in the line up to tell you how deep you are or where you're going to come from. But it's kind of just, it moves so quick, like quicker than any other wave, and just, that's why those photos look unbelievable. But, it's just, definitely those types of waves, people are one and done. You don't go back. You just know that the consequences are just too unbelievable. You only got to look what Brendo Newton did at that wave, and like I went out there once before and surfed that wave, and that was a one and done for me. I don't want to go back there. Yeah. Like it's 50 k's out to sea, and you got to rock. And he was like. Yeah, like I knew Brendo and we were like friends and that then, but at the same time he was really like, religious. So he would, and he'd admitted himself, he was so religious that like he thought, his thinking was that I'm protected, I can do this, and it's like, man, no one's protecting you out here. This is raw, And the same with like Kirby Brown. Like, I lived with Kirby for a long period of time too, and he's on the same level. But Kirby's like super talented too, like crazy surfer, you know, and the stuff that he does, like, and the places that he went is just madness. Like, it's not, to find fun in that is like, to me, is like kind of, just crazy. I mean, it's just psycho what he does. Like, and for the amount of time he's kept it up for. We'll go on 5-10 years, You know, he's been doing it for 20 years. You know, so that's a whole different level of, you know, character.
Totally.
What he's doing.
And he moved down there to be close to those waves. He's based his whole life around chasing those kinds of waves, which is crazy. Not many people have dedicated their existence to, like, you know, people move to fucking Lennox or snap at it.
Yeah, I know.
He's moved.
It's crazy because, like, a lot now I look at these other, you know, look at a lot of surfing that's going on, and I'm seeing all, you know, footage of, you know, Rasta or Jai, Glinderman, and, you know, all these perfect waves that's surfing in Indo. I'm like, how come I've never surfed fucking perfect waves? Like,
Fully.
well, no, I surf Kira, and, you know, that gets, you know, relatively perfect and things like that. But I'm going, these guys get such good waves, and then I'm going, oh yeah, we're chasing fucking shit slabs that break in front of rocks, you know, instead of perfection, you know. So it's like that whole bodyboarding, you know, the sport of bodyboarding revolved off like chasing a slab or just a one hit air thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's not much. There's flow in it in certain aspects, but, you know, there was never like, you don't get scored on flow. Like, they have it in the criteria, I don't know why, but there's not much flow in it. You know, it was always like barrel, hit a ramp, you know, like, so it's like the whole of bodyboarding premises is around chasing a slabbing pit with a ramp, you know?
Yeah. It may have, in some ways, held the sport back a bit just because, it is a lot of one-hitters, big pit, big ramp, and it doesn't have necessarily the dance and the grace of stand-up surfing. But that's like when you compare the two now. But back then, because it was so new, that terrain, like, fuck, it was fascinating to watch. And it was a really important step in the evolutionary of stand-up surfing. I look at, like, you go back to George Greeno on a kneeboard, the spoon and all that, getting super deep pits. Like, he was the first guy to fully map the terrain of deep tube rides.
Yeah.
And then bodyboarding was like kind of the next phase to kind of take Greeno's line, and it kind of took that to a different terrain. And like, apart from a pretty small crew of surfers, the guys you mentioned, basically, you know, it took surfing probably still another 20 years to reach where bodyboarding was at. We're seeing it now with, you know, your Russ Bjerks and Nate Florence and these kinds of characters now surfing bodyboard waves that were pioneered by bodyboarders and surfing them well. And it's come in some ways to the detriment of bodyboarding. Bodyboarding's not necessarily as relevant as it once was now that surfers are on their waves.
Yeah.
And bodyboarding hasn't managed to, like, I've heard you talk about this, it hasn't managed to really, like, age that well. Like, some of the stuff that was being done in your era hasn't necessarily been bettered.
No, there's not as much. Yeah, the performance level hasn't changed that much, you know. So, and I think, maybe that is a. Well, I think progression only happens if there's like a total push for it, you know, that in anything, you know. Like, I think, you know, when did they go to the freaking moon? You know, this is off topic, but it was like 1969. And then there hasn't been a push. So there hasn't been this huge amount of innovation towards it until kind of now. Just because we're moving into the future doesn't mean that, you know, the progression is getting there. It's just like, I think people have to push really hard to, like, you know, move past what's already been done, you know. So,
and you need resources as well at a certain point to enable the time to experiment and tinker. And one of the things with surfing, why it is such a dynamic and growing culture in sport, is because, like, board design has changed so much and opened up so many different kinds of waves and kinds of surfing and styles of surfing, whereas you know, bodyboarding's still got the exact same equipment.
Yeah, there's that. And I think your bodyboarding is kind of restricted to, because I most of my life I grew up at Snapper and, you know, all that in Cooley, and, you know, I was heavily influenced by surfing just with my own bodyboarding. You know, I'd watch surfers more than I'd watch bodyboarding because there was such, you know, big characters, and, you know, you had all the guys there. But, what I found, because surfing point breaks, on the surfboard, you can go from like, say if you're an 80 kilo guy, you could, go from 80 kilos on the pumping down or compression or whatever to 10 kilos. Whereas on a bodyboard, you're kind of remaining at 80 kilos. So you're not being able to generate speed as easily as a surfboard. So that's like that's why I think bodyboarding's like big slabs, one ramp. There's not much that can happen in between. Whereas in surfing, and I think about it a lot now, like riding a longer wave, you can ride on a bodyboard, but you're going like maybe 10 or 15k an hour. Whereas on surfboard, you could be going like 30 to 50k an hour, still end the wave at the same time, but you've done so much more and gone so much faster. It's like bodyboarding, you can tend to feel like you're stuck in traffic almost. You don't open up the whole wave as much. So I think bodyboarding is like really, really good in those short slabbing punchy waves, but it's restricted to that, and that, like, bodyboarding will always be fun in smaller ways for people learning and that, but it's only really dynamic when it's big and slabbing, and those days don't come around that often. And then the contests that we do have that tend to push sports a lot more, they're not necessary, but they tend to hold it up a little bit. So it's hard to see the progression going much further than it already has, unless people start a lot of people start surfing these waves a lot more. There's just so much within surfing, but that's why if you can surf, bodyboard, ride a mat, body surf, it opens you up. That's why I feel like it's bodyboarding is even though it appears to be in a slow, slumpy kind of spot, I think it's perfect for it, because you don't want a 12-year-old kid coming up and getting to 20 and then not that's all he's done and there's no money in it and no whatever. So it's better if they just surf for the bodyboard or whatever, for the love of it.
And if you want to get tubed, that is the vessel for you. Like, mate, it's so sick going down to, say, somewhere like Aussie Pipe, and you got the Indigenous community there, and you'll see like an 8 or 10-year-old little Curry Grom getting blown out of little 3-foot insiders at Pipe. Just fucking eyes bulging. Like, he is getting so fucking pitted at,
And they're just so natural at it too.
So natural.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. They're right on the line, and the ones that they want and know that, that they're big enough to get, because they're tiny little humans. But it's one of the craziest things. And, you can extrapolate that to, like, you got your kids from fucking Campbelltown, like southwest Sydney. They pile into a hatchback, fucking punch it down to some region on the south coast.
Yeah.
Huff a bunch of dried plants out of a plastic bottle in their car. Paddle out and just, like, knife tubes and often get blown out of pits that are so far. Like, to surf that on a stand-up.
Yeah.
Like, you may never get to that level. And these kids have been doing it, like, intermittently for like 1 to 2 years, and they're getting crazy vision high on fucking plants that grow out of the ground. I always think I said this to Jerry Lopez. I'm like, can you imagine what, if God exists, what he'd think, like, looking down on a scene like that? And, like, going, look at these cunts. Like, fuck, this is a glitch. Like, they're so smart. How did they figure this out? They're living like a dolphin-style existence, but they're humans.
Yeah.
And they're just, I just love that culture exists, and that experience is being had by kids who've got fucking nothing going for them. That's the sick thing about bodyboarding. It's like, and you see it in the islands a lot too, Hawaii, Tahiti, like, it's a social class thing. They don't have the money for a surfboard, and they don't live close enough to the coast to be able to surf consistently enough to get good on a stick. But on a boog, fuck, they can pack them. And they get that experience. They get the best of the best surfing experience, which is getting barreled. And
I mean, all around the world, there's bodyboarders everywhere that are just, they're generally down to earth and accommodating, and they're extremely passionate. So you just see it, like, in Hawaii, like in Tahiti, like Tahure, like guys like that are dominating Chopu, and they're the ones that, like, are bringing in all the surfers together and, towing them in now, and, and even, like, the surf photographers, most of them are have been bodyboarders. So
sure.
there is this large, like, massive crossover for it, that just shared kind of talent that's obviously pushed surfing. Bodyboarding has pushed surfing, in more ways than just, the waves that they've rode. But also like the talent that comes from it by swimming out in the ocean in these slabs. They're more comfortable swimming out at, off the wall and pipe or chopu. And, I'd say 90% of the top photographers out there have been bodyboarders,
Mate, it's crazy.
Like Chris Burkhardt, he's a famous one.
Chris Bryan, fucking Todd Barnes, Phil Gallagher, Ray Collins, James Cates.
Oh, they're absolutely everywhere.
Almost,
Scott Eichner. He was a bodyboarder.
Dude, pipe. His photos blew my mind when I was a grown.
Flint, even like a lot of that Todd Glazier. Like he was like, I used to travel with him, and he was like Slater's main photographer. Just so many. Like I think it just translates well to what the surfing magazines want to see. And bodyboarders can do that. Like there's been so many photographers hit me up on Instagram, and I've liked a photo and go, I used to bodyboard it. And I was like, what? These guys used to bodyboard? This is crazy. Like you don't even know, It's a crazy little crossover. It's good fun seeing that.
It's sick. And the thing that people want to see is generally shots in the tube. Like people want that portal into the barrel. It's just something so cosmic about it. It's powered the fucking entire industry and culture of surfing, a $1 billion industry of millions of people. It's all powered by getting tubed, pretty much. And bodyboarders have had the keys to that dimension since day dot. And even Greeno, like a lot of the tube footage you got in Echoes, the fucking absolute pinnacle of art, in my opinion, was captured on a foam mat at Lennox. With a huge cameraman on his back. So like that's still prone riding.
They got the best. Well, he had the best. Well, that period of surfing had the best surfing film names ever too. It's like
I know.
I just want to like. It was amazing. But I don't know if this is true, but I heard George Greeno. Is it Greeno?
Yeah.
Greeno.
Yeah.
It was. I heard a story that like he used to go fishing on the mats, and he hooked. Like I don't know, it was a great white or whatever, and someone goes, "What's that going out there?" And it was just Greeno going back and forth, and he's like, "Oh yeah, he's hooked a great white." Like I don't know if that's like full myth.
I love that, mate.
But it was just like, "Oh yeah, that's Greeno." Like it was just like, "Oh, that's normal."
I'm like,
that. I don't know if it's true or not, but I don't know if it was like Lennox or somewhere around that area, but it was just like, "Oh yeah, that's Greeno." I was like, "What the?"
He's
what
like,
the hell? Like,
whether it's true or not, like that folklore deserves to exist and the mythology deserves to exist, because it could well have happened, and he is like a fucking, like, in 200, 500 years, guys like him will be seen as like, potentially they will be seen as fucking gods in a weird way, like as people who, like saints or like these kind of holy figures who created man, where the fuck's surfing gonna be in 500 years or 200 years if we're all still here? Like it'll be guys like him. He was an originator of the culture. So like stories like that, I love that they're out there and they exist. And mate, he is a fucking mad fisher. Like fuck, he's a madman. Like he's always catching big fish over the backside of the points there, and I don't know, allegedly maybe fishing out the odd problematic shark too.
Or I think it was just for, I don't know if
before those laws were even in
I don't
place.
think he meant to catch it. It was just like he's just hanging on, and that was the story, and I was like, far out, this is wild.
Right, maybe that's where he come up with the idea for, or someone maybe saw that and were like, wow, maybe we can whip in to Slabs. We just need a bit of extra power. But going back to the start of your journey again, man, like, so you're growing up in Kiama, and this point of the coast and this point of time, like it's ground zero for Slabs. Like that fucking region from, say, the zone on the Sunny Coast to like, let's say Depot or something. There's probably like 20 plus world class slabs for bodyboarding, a dozen of which are pretty good for surfing on a stick. But at this point, it's mostly bodyboarding, and it's just like you guys must have felt like fucking astronauts. Like it would have been.
Oh, I think it was just natural. Like the crew we were hanging around with was just that's just what we did. So it wasn't like something that, we weren't looking to go to Sand and Point or something. You know what I mean? Like, even though that wave's probably pretty sick. Like, I've seen footage and I'm like, that's sick. But yeah, that for bodyboarders, those waves aren't even on the radar. So it's not something it's like those waves you mentioned, like, you know, the slabbing waves. It's just like, oh yeah, that's where we go. And you know, it's just, the natural kind of, you know, waves to go to on a bodyboard. So, and then plus, like, you know, the surfers that had their spots. I mean, there's, what was it, out at Ours or Kernel or whatever, you know, that was that transition, I guess, with the Bra Boys, you know, getting that wave, and, you know, there was like some friction going on there with all that shit. So, but yeah, bodyboarders run in packs too. So I totally get it. You know, it's like, you know, you can fit, you know, 20 bodyboarders in a car pretty freaking easy, you know, where, you know, I, you know, travel with, you know, a few surfers from time to time. They're going to take some shit with them, you know, like bodyboards are like little, you know, 3 foot long things that can fit 10 in the back of the boot, you know, and, you know, so you can go to these spots and just instant crowd it, you know, so it's different to surfing where, you know, you can fit maybe 2 or 3 boards, especially you've got bigger boards, and that's it, you know. It's just a different feel, you know, like, I guess like skating would be the same. You can rock up with 10 people, but it's probably not going to feel crowded, but you can fit way more people in with a bodyboard than you can surfing or longboarding or anything like that. So,
so what was your history with the Cape like? Because I remember, the first footage I ever saw of it was in a bodyboarding video. I think Superstars or one of those ones. And the bodyboarders from the beach next to me, a lot of them, you know, there was a handful of them that were pro burgers, and they were showing me these videos and going, fuck, mate, this is like so close to us. And they kind of dialed me into a lot of the waves in our region. That was one of the real appeals of bodyboarding period videos from that period, was like, you're watching them and you're like, fuck, all of these waves are within like a pretty short drive from my fucking inner city like beach. Like, and that wave was just a fucking mind blower. They flipped it so it was a left. There was 2 waves. There's like the middles or whatever they call that other one, and like it was mind blowing. And that video ended up being the one that the Bra Boys cottoned onto and colonized the spot. But how long did the bodyboarding world have access to that joint before?
Well, even those guys, I think the main guys that were surfing that were from Cronulla.
Yeah.
So even they didn't want other people surfing it. It was just them, I guess, in a sense. But I think it'd been surfed by Occy a lot too back in the day. Before that, you know, guys like that. But
yeah, I don't know, because he says in one video, might even be the Bra Boys doco, he talks about the fact like he would sit and watch it.
Yeah.
But he would never surf it. He couldn't believe people would surf it.
Yeah.
And then
it's pretty open too, and it's pretty raw. Like, it's, you know, you're in the big channel, big sharks, and, you know, back then, I guess if Occy was there, there'd be no one surfing it, no one around, no one checking it, no one even knowing where to jump off to get into those spots, because, you know, you kind of didn't do that then. I don't know.
It was called, that's also right, it was called Piker's Hole originally, and it was a body surfing spot at a certain point. Yeah. Wow. Like, like early days, there was people body surfing it. Yeah. And they even named it.
Yeah, wow. But yeah, the Cronulla guys just surfed. I only ever surfed it once, and I was, so the Cronulla guys had it, and I surfed it once. There was no one out, and I was with Chris Bryan, actually, and he goes, gotta get out there. And I'm like, it was kind of the intense kind of period of time. And I'm like, nah, fuck, I don't, you know, I'm not interested. I don't really care, you know. It was pumping, and there was no one out, and I went out, and then a couple of skis come over at the same time.
Oh my God.
So it was just on straight away.
I think I've heard the story, So you end up copping a punch in the head?
I didn't cop or maybe I did, but I got hit by a jet ski, run over by a jet
Yeah.
ski, like properly run over. And
That's
those things are
heavy.
heavy.
Fuck, that's
so.
gnarly.
And my initial reaction was just to grab onto the ski.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I would do that,
On
but
the
it was just
sled?
no, just onto the side of the, where the footwell is, kind of just grabbed onto that. And I think someone was like, I'm pretty sure it was Kobe, was just hitting my arm like non-stop.
Yeah. Fuck.
So it was like pretty funny.
They like doing that. Even I remember one of the Bra Boys was a lifeguard at Bondi, run me over on a jet ski.
Yeah, but it was
Surfing the flags.
So that was my only experience with that wave, and I've never, it wasn't like a focus or anything. It looks like a sick wave and fun, but there's so many other waves out there that and that it didn't really matter. But yeah, that was my one and done, and then nothing really. I mean, actually, the news stations, someone actually seen it happen.
No way.
Because there was no one around, and the news were ringing me, going, "Oh, can we get a story?" Police were calling me and everything, and I'm going, "No, I don't know what you're talking about."
Oh, that's it, mate. You did them a solid because, like, at that point, the cops were looking for any excuse to.
Yeah.
To do those guys in.
They were ringing non-stop this one day. Yeah, and they can get your number. I don't know how they get your number so easily, but they'll get your number. And they wanted me on 60 Minutes, freaking night or whatever, a current affair.
Whoa!
And I just said, I don't know what you're talking about.
Whoa!
Like, it was just something that I wasn't worried about, like any of the anything. Like I didn't care about, like, I know they run with a big pack or anything, but I didn't do anything. Just freaking surfing. Who gives a shit? That's my mentality.
Mate, that was a mad chapter in the history of the city, though. Like, that was all around when
I had Billabong lawyers ringing me and everything.
Like, that was like peak Bra Boy celebrity. The film that had just come out was about to, and like there was very little in the way of mental health awareness and an understanding of the impact of, let's say, intergenerational trauma and drug abuse. Like it was just like the early noughties, like we were kind of cavemen. And the culture, I mean, I'm from that culture. It was like, there was riots going on in the city. There was, like the city was low rent. It was a mixture of houses and low rent. You had like big housing commission tenements, like, you kind of, if you're on the beach, you're like wedged in by them. They're all just inland of you. So
my dad grew up there. He grew up in Newtown. So like he grew up in the commissions there and Redfern. He played for the All Blacks there, Redfern All Blacks.
A white guy?
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
I think there was two.
Yeah, there would
two
be
of
two.
them. Maybe one or two, but
Mate, very familiar with that football team. Got a couple of titanium plates in my jaw from
Yeah.
playing them.
So whenever I see that, the Newtown Jets tees going, I love seeing that because my dad has one. And
sick.
And
Henson Park, mate. Iconic venue, in the city. So that culture, and it was like, everyone could kind of hold their hands up, and it was, copping a punch in the head meant nothing to us. Like that was just, that was a weekly occurrence, like people fighting and carrying on and shit. So but then you kind of superimpose that into surf culture, which is generally pretty soft. I think, like compared to that kind of that world. And where
kinda, but the thing is it is. I guess
like a punch in the head's like a huge deal. Like we're still talking about it. Fucking like 20 years later. Whereas like a punch in the head, like. Well, I'm not talking about the fucking thousands of other violent incidents that I witnessed during that period, but like, hence why it's a big deal. The cops and the fucking
I know. I think they were just
calling you up.
Hell bent on, that. I don't know why. They must have been chasing him or
such a
trying to get
surf
something.
gangs like that shit. It's like, mate, what about the gangs? The cunts that are fucking slinging like thousands of pingers and meth and whatever else in the city. You don't give a fuck about them.
Because I know good friends with Dingo, and he's going, that was my buddy you ran over. He's like, no, that guy had grey hair. I think I had really white hair then. He goes, that wasn't him. I know him. That wasn't him. So he didn't even know it was like me or anything.
A case of
mate, who knows?
Mistaken identity. And mate, like I was surfing those waves a little bit after that, but I definitely saw how staunch they were towards bodyboarders, even around the bend there at Vui's and kind of other spots. And and in some ways, I could kind of understand just how busy the island got with bodyboarders, and that was a very surfable wave, and it bodyboarders could sit deeper and under, and there was probably some people who gamed the system a bit, and I don't know, I'm not justifying it, but I can see why there was friction.
Yeah, totally. So
competing for a resource, right? Fuck.
Yeah, there's always going to be that. I always, in that regard, Snapper's the most aggressive lineup you'll ever surf. There isn't any more. I mean, there's probably heavier locations in that regard, but I always go at the mindset that I'm not going to get anything. I'll just put myself in the best position, snake a hell of a lot of people, get under people, and just work the little chess match that's going on out there. You know, that's why you can still go to pipe and get waves, not the best waves, but if you know what's going on, the way the water's moving and that, you're still going to get waves in those crowded spots. But it's there's so many different waves out there, and you don't need perfect big waves to still have fun. So it's better to have that mentality of going out thinking you're going to get nothing, than going out and going, I'm going to get the best wave. Or but yeah, I don't think there's a harder lineup than Snapper to get a good wave,
No, and there's fucking tons of nutcases out there. Goldie's pretty much reminds me of the Eastern Side when I was growing up. It's low rent, it's affordable. It's fucking, there's just a lot of actual heavy characters in that lineup. It's a heavy lineup, underrated, I reckon.
Yeah, Oki's got it figured out.
Yeah,
he's properly got it figured. He'll go on every wave. And even if you're on the inside, you don't go anymore because he's going to drop in on you or get the wave. And, it's the best. Everyone's he gets so many waves. No, he's worked it out. People are pulling back even if he's not on the inside. It's amazing to watch.
Wow.
I love it. Everyone hates it. I'm how the hell do you get to that level where you can be down the line and go and someone's in front of you, and up, but not go up, pull back and go, he's going.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
That is another level of mastery right there.
It is. You see that kind of shit in Hawaii, where there's just guys who, if they paddle, you don't paddle.
Yeah,
Oki's got that now at Snapper, and mate,
and Dingo, he'll get more waves than anyone.
Yeah, and in some ways, it's they're catching rabbits share because it's fucked up. He can't even get waves there without getting faded and disrespected, and he's the guy who fucking put that wave or put surfing on the map, in many ways. And the culture has gotten to a point where a guy like that has no access to a wave that he fucking pioneered.
Yeah,
he's grown out of the sand like a soldier crab at that joint.
Yeah, and he's got I used to see him surf a lot.
He stopped surfing it because he's sick of getting faded and snaked and hassled.
Yeah.
Can you believe it's kind of faded. It's like hassling fucking Clyde Icow or Michael Ho at Pipe, but for some reason at Snapper, I mean, there's not the violence attached to that lineup that there is in Hawaii. If you were to do that, you're going to deal with a lot of fucking standover.
Yeah. I think, it's probably missed, but I'm sure if he, if he went out there, he'd still get plenty of waves. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, I've heard him say that. He's
but people move so quick too now. It's just such an energetic lineup and such a hassly lineup, and you don't know who everyone is, and so Pipe is more, even though the waves move faster, it's a bit more contained, and it's very you know who lives on the North Shore and who doesn't, whereas on the Gold Coast now it's getting so big that you don't know who lives there, who doesn't, what's to go here, who, so there's all that movement going on in the lineup all the time. But generally, if there's a current going, that helps the crowd out a lot, but it's a zoo. It's a proper zoo.
Mate.
But everywhere's a zoo, along this coast now.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, look, that's kind of the reality when you're surfing waves that were discovered in the 70s and that are really
Yep.
good. Like, I look at Indo like in the same way. Like, the waves that surfing culture in the industry was built off
Yep.
are blown to smithereens, but you got to expect that. It's been,
Yeah.
50 years since they were discovered, and there's been 1 trillion photos, and like we've sold this dream on the back of these waves. It's like, if you're onto it, go find somewhere else. Like, don't complain about these spots being blown and not the way they used to be. That's idiotic. Of course they're going to be scorched.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was having a conversation. I think he's the owner of Whistler. It was the other night, and he was saying how you really need to support surfers, like professional surfing, to uphold the sport. And I'm like, I kind of, whether I'm getting older or whatever, I kind of disagree. Like, I think surfing is so bodyboarding, surfing, and all these different water sports that we love to enjoy don't need it. Like, people are gonna do it anyway because it's so good. You don't need professional surfing for people to want to be, surf and have all this, money and do it.
Totally.
People are just gonna do it.
Well, it didn't start out that way. Like, the guys who put surfing on the map were not professional surfers. They were like living in rundown, rat-infested shacks with chickens and growing their own fucking kale and broccoli. That's how they financed their dream.
The only way surfing business, became a business because surfers go, I got to make a bit of money so I can just keep surfing, and then it turned into this like, corporate, business structure where, like, even to the point I constantly think, I go, okay, like, because I own a print shop and I do surf gear, and I'm like, if I ever get to a point where I have a really cool surf shop, it's closed on a pumping day. Like, fuck having a surf shop. I think it's criminal, a surf shop being open on a pumping day. Like, they should just leave a box of wax out there and go, sorry, we're surfing, here's some fucking wax. Like, it just doesn't sit well with me when that style, like, I think it was like I've seen on Instagram, it was Dale Velzy or whatever, and I talk about surfing a lot because it's such a big influence of bodyboarding still, and but he was like, Dale Velzy goes, we used to run our surf shop loose and wild, like, basically meaning he was open some days, not open the other days, like, because I was surfing.
Yeah.
Like, you go past now, like, a city beach, and it's like, they're in malls and all these different things, and obviously it boosts the sport, but it's like, if a surf shop if you went past the local surf shop and it was closed on a pumping day, you'd be like, oh, they're surfing. That would feel really good.
Yeah.
And then you just go, oh, we'll be back in 2 hours, we're just surfing, it'd be like, well, yeah, I need to be surfing too. Like, so
Mate,
just have some like honesty box out the front, just for like, yeah, here's a wax leggy or whatever,
Mate, those local surf shops were cultural institutions when I was growing up. Like, they were kind of just coming on the scene. I think SDS might have been the only one that existed, like a kind of chain.
Yeah.
But like, even SDS, like, man, I remember the one at Bondi Junction, Jake Spooner from Sandon worked in there.
Yep.
Like, everyone who worked in there
surfed
they knew. and surfed good, and like, like, you kind of had to surf to even get a job in one of them because the manager surfed. So like, you had to be from that community, and they still had, they were still sick joints to work. But that was probably the start of them not shutting down.
For sure.
We should have, like, on a good day of waves, we should have formed some kind of trade union amongst surfers. Where we just go on strike every time there's an onion spinning off the coast.
Well, because I have a son, he lives in Tasmania. I went to Tasmania to live for like a year, and I ended up working in a surf shop. I think it was Surf, Dive and Ski, Billabong owned or whatever. And I was like going through a whole heap of shit because my partner and I separated, and I was just down there to see my son. So I wasn't really surfing a bit, but then I got to get a job, so I worked in this surf shop, and no one knew how to sell anything. Like, so they had all these wetsuits, and they go, oh, if you can help sell the wetsuits. And the first day I sold like 10 wetsuits, and they're just like going, how'd you do that? And I go, what do you mean? Like, someone come in, wanted a wetsuit, so all the people, would come to me, and, I'd sold so many wetsuits because I knew how to talk about them. And then, like, I was one day, one of the Tassie chargers was down there. I forgot forgotten his name, but he's one of the main guys down there. And he was asking me about fins, and like then I didn't know nothing about surfboard fins, but I knew enough to like go, oh yeah, this one's got a nice, this is good for medium size waves, got a nice rake, and he was going, oh yeah, I was just testing you out. And I'm like, fuck, I had no idea, mate. I don't know what I'm talking about with these things. It was funny, but like that mentality in that surf shop, they had surfboards, had wetsuits, had fins. No one had a clue how to talk about them.
Fuck, mate. It's weird where the industry's gotten to in terms of like how under-supported it is by a lot of core surfers.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why, surf shops, that these cultural institutions, were completely eroded and just became these cookie-cutter atmospheres full of people who don't surf, selling you products that like may or may not be functional or made in some weird country, might be made like shit, and like that's like there was many little steps along the way of the surf industry losing credibility with the core surfers. Another part of it you touched on, it's like professional surfers like thinking that they're above the game, or that they're they get told, they get worshipped, they get told that they're the guy. They get paid big dollars, so often they believe that hype, but in reality, like the dude is just like surfs good and has worked 3 or 4 or 5 days that week to give himself the opportunity to surf some world-class waves. He doesn't give a fuck about that guy with the stickers. Like, and like, so, and if that guy with the stickers is going to like disrespect him or take waves off him or whatever, like, I think it is, like, that's a bad look for the surf industry. B, it's also incumbent upon that guy who's getting snagged to fucking word that cunt up. Like, like you should. You have the right to, and I think it's the surfing public's responsibility to remind the elites, quote unquote, that like they're not above the game. And there's many ways.
Well, pros. Like, I think, because obviously I had a professional career, if you can call that, in bodyboarding. It's fucking easy. It's the fucking easiest thing to do ever, to get good at, if you're surfing all day, every day, you're going to get good. Like, I've got a business now, and it's the hardest fucking thing. And I think business people are, the true athletes of the world, like, they're the ones that need, like, this, like, the accolades, it's so easy. Like, if you've got
working for a living, like running a small business as a tradesman and still being able to surf good, that's a fucking miracle.
They're the heroes. Like, I look at that different now.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
I see, like guys on the Goldie that are, electricians, carpenters, and rip, and they're like, we're on the phone or talking, just going, all right, I'll meet you here at 3. Or I just got this one more job to do, and I'm going to be there. And they're like, you just. Either that, you don't hear from them because you already started surfing or whatever.
And add a family into the mix too. A lot of these guys are raising families. Man, it blows my mind. It's just so much going on. Whereas your traditional trajectory for a professional surfer is your dad was a shaper or a pro surfer himself, and you just grow up from the age of fucking 5 years old getting pushed into waves. Your dad's already got the whole network of shapers and sponsors and team managers in his back pocket because they're mates, and you just kind of have this this yellow brick road laid out for you a lot of the time.
Because I see it. Obviously Gold Coast is like a big hub for professional surfing, which is awesome. But you see guys that are like almost. They're almost, I guess, on the tour, but they should just be surfing like 8 hours a day. I don't care. You fucking just get out there and get as good as you can to make it, as a professional surfer, is that's what you want to do. Don't be like lazy and, surf 1 hour a day, 2 hours. You've got the shortest period of time to get it right and get it done and, live that unbelievable lifestyle that they get. Obviously there's exceptions like, Mick and Joel and John and all those top guys, where they're just, and all that another level above everyone, but they're the ones that were surfing 8 to 10 hours a day every single day.
Totally. And none of those guys had it easy. They didn't have that charm run. It's probably why they're at the top of the sport, and you can add Medina to that category.
Yeah, I know. He's just Frick,
Like,
man.
you know,
Yeah.
Medina's like single mum, John's
Yeah.
single mum, Mick's single mum,
Yeah.
you know, Parko's dad's a bricklayer, like, you know,
Yeah.
so these guys, like, yeah, they did grow up near, well, I mean, Mick lived in fucking Penrith till he was
Yeah.
7, and like Ballon and then the Goldie, so like, these guys, like, at a certain point, yeah, they had older brothers that surfed, they did have some mentors to get them into waves, and they lived near the coast, but yeah, they had tremendous drive.
Yeah.
Due, I think, to some like a bit of like, you know, some of that insecurity and emotional shit that comes from not having a dad
Yeah.
around, and B, also like you know, when I think of Parko, and add Dingo to that list too.
Yeah.
You know, like another guy like raised by Rabbit.
Yeah.
Really had a pretty hectic, one of the most hectic
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of upbringings I've ever heard of in
Yeah.
surfing. But yeah, like, so it's a combination of like some of that emotional trauma and shit of not having the best start to life, plus because your dad is a fucking bricklayer, or like you're surrounded by this kind of working class drudgery. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I've got this tight window to
Yeah.
make this work, or I'm fucking on the shovel, and that is
Yeah.
a powerful motivating
yeah,
force. Eh?
Yeah, that's why I feel like, you know, like bodyboarding is like perfect now, because there isn't a pathway. There really isn't. There's no pathway to become a professional bodyboarder so much now. And I even have guys hitting them up for free boards, and I'm like, I'm not going to give you free boards. Like, you know, I'm paying for them now. Plus, it's like, it's hard to, like, you know, it's a type of sport where it's so small that, like, if people want a good quality board to buy, they'll buy it off you, you know. But everyone's like bummed that it's not at its peak where it used to be, but it was never sustainable, you know, because it was like, now I just feel, yeah, it's like a good bodyboarder that's chasing waves, like Shane Ackman. I don't even know if he works. I don't know what he
works.
does.
Yeah, he works driving cranes on.
Okay, yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's like
he's
most...
always worked. He's
Yeah.
never had a cent from the bodyboarding industry. as
Yeah,
far as I know.
exactly. So it's like, you know, and he charges, gets himself around the world, books his own flights, does all that. And it's like, that's beautiful and perfect. You know, like, don't expect, this like crazy career, you know, so.
And he's riding the heaviest waves on planet Earth.
Yeah.
He's paddling
Yeah.
the heaviest waves on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And he's working for a living.
Yeah.
And he's, you know, doing it the old-fashioned way that
Yeah.
I think bodyboarders and surfers, like, really, in the early days, set
Yeah.
the standard for, you know, like, just living out the back of a car, couch surfing. And that's, mate, that's a really cool... or let's say meaningful way to live, I think.
Yeah.
Like, it reminds me of almost like some kind of religious tradition. Like, you go on these pilgrimages to these like Meccas, and you fall in with fellow devotees, and they take care of you and they feed you, and it's like, and then they come and visit your Mecca, and like, and it's just like this amazing tradition that I'm so grateful to have had those experiences myself. And I feel sorry for those that haven't, and those that haven't are often the ones who've been sponsored from a young age, and they've just been getting shuttled around on the surf industry dime to hotels, and they miss out on a lot of that, team houses, whatever. And that's the karma, but the good karma that guys like Shane and the underground guys get. And mate, bodyboarding was sick back in the day for... because it didn't have the money attached to it, just like the fucking hell missions.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, you must have been on some wild ones.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking then, like, you know, the characters that are in bodyboarding, you know, like guys like, you know, I think the all-time best bodyboarder is Paul Roach. Like, you know, he's just amazing character, unbelievably talented, you know.
He was a skits like drop knee guy.
Drop knee
too,
guy,
right?
yeah. I think he was kind of made famous when he had that little boxing match with Kelly Slater in the front yard.
Is that in the Momentum
Yeah,
film?
Momentum.
That's who clubs him. No
that's
shit.
Paul Roach.
Yeah,
and it's
rattles
like,
Slater's cage.
because he was really good friends with Taylor Steele.
Yeah.
Paul Roach. So, but then like meeting those guys, and he was a larger than life, but he was a tradie his whole life too. You know, but one of the most talented guys ever, and they've contributed, you know, the tail side and surfing to him.
Mate, that turn, that drop knee like tail flare over
Yeah.
that closeout section, that lip line tail flare, like
Yeah.
that is one of the great turns in surfing. I love seeing photos of that. The position, like the friction-free position that guys like Roach would get into.
Yeah.
Fuck, it looks cool, man.
Yeah, he's freaky. And then like there's I remember going out to Cow Bombing in WA on a ski, and I was like halfway out, and Ryan Hardy's paddling out there. Like you cannot even see. You wouldn't see him from land because the chops and the ocean is so freaking wild and deep. And he's paddling out there. And like this day was to this day, it was still the biggest day I've ever surfed waves. And I was petrified. And he was paddling out there, and I was like, yeah, jump on. And it was like nothing to go, oh. And so he used to do that so much. Like he didn't do the toe thing that often. But he'd just paddle it. And he'd just rock up. He'd know we would be coming or whatever, and just paddle out to these locations that have no right to be paddled out to. Like, just none. It's freaky.
It's so freaky. Like, the shark situation, there's been many fatalities in that zone, but also just, like, no photographer, no
nothing.
filmer.
Nothing.
So what are you doing it for? Well, you're doing it for the pure experience of it.
Yeah.
But, like, that is some Kerouac fucking Buddhist, like there's like the most spiritual pursuit that my take on that stuff is that, like, if you are that connected and that pure in your motivation and intention, it's all about connecting with the ocean and energy. I feel like the universe in a weird way looks after you, and I think Brendo is actually kind of right when he talks about like the fact that he was looked after.
Yeah,
I think that he kind of was, but he
had to have been.
Well, mate,
but I don't know if
that story that when he gets his face ripped off at Salty Dogs. Funnily enough, the wave before that was the wave of his life.
Yeah.
So he got the wave of his life, and then he got greedy. So, like, he was fully looked after in a sense. Like, against all odds, he fucking gets a crazy one on the first wave, and then instead of going in and calling it quits, like so many of us have done in our lives, you get that bit greedy, you push the envelope, you want one too many, and you get fucking lit up, and that's what happened to him.
Yeah, similar story. I was like, Billabong was starting, like, the Odyssey or Billabong big thing or whatever.
Right. Laird and she went and towed Cyclops.
Oh, no, I think it was like, it was to do similar to that, but I remember I got invited on this trip to Tassie. It was like first time I was going down there or whatever. This was years ago. And I knew Andy Irons was on the trip too. Whoa. And I was like,
was that one? Andy and Laurie.
Yeah,
and
all those guys. And I was shitting myself. And like, so they're going, go down there. But it wasn't like, I was included, but it wasn't like they were the crew and I was just like coming along. So like I had to book my own ticket, and they're going, oh yeah, just go here. And so when I got to Tassie, I rang the one guy that I knew, couldn't get a hold of him. So like, I'm just in Tassie, not fucking like, what am I doing? Like no one, and they had a boat and I had to link up, but I didn't know where to go because I had no phone number. It was like, yeah, you're going because you're a bodyboarder. Just go for it, whatever. It wasn't, and then so I had to walk in, find the track, do all the bullshit to get in there.
No way, they're just whipping around on the boat.
Yeah, they got around the boat, but I was like, it was the same sort of deal. Like, I was like, all right, I'm gonna, mission it and just get in there, and the whole time kind of cursing too, going, fuck, Andy Irons, fuck, like he's psycho, like. He's going to hate bodyboarders. I don't want to be around him. Like, I don't want to be anywhere near him.
You couldn't be more of a second-class citizen in that situation.
Oh, yeah. I was a total second-class, like, fucking... And I got around there, and it was big and pumping. And, it was like... I just got super lucky kind of all day. Like, it was... Because I walked in there.
Yeah, you did it
the
right
I even
way.
did the walk out because, like, all my shit was on the beach, and their stuff was on a boat and everything. And obviously, Laurie got that unbelievable wave, but then like everything kind of turned around, and it was like it was probably one of my proudest moments in bodyboarding. It was like Andy was like, and he's a fucking big character, that guy. Like it was like, and he had like, he just kept pumping me up, going, I can't believe that fucking wave you got. You're dragging your legs down. I tried to do it on a surfboard, scoop and do all that shit, and I was like, wow, this guy actually, he's looking, he's learning about all that, all that stuff. And then, we went back in town, had dinner, and he was sitting next to me and talking nonstop. And I'm like, fuck, this guy's legendary, you know, like so much energy, and they were going hard, and it was just like one of those moments where I'm like, you know, I wasn't included really. Like I was there, but it wasn't like, you know, they weren't. If Andy was lost, they'd be like getting the whole Tassie to go, where's Andy? You know, where is he? But it was just like me, and I'm like, they didn't even know if I was going to be there. I just ended up, they come around the corner and I'm already out there surfing, you know. So it was like, you know, that kind of like, oh, this is bodyboarding and that's surfing, you know. But then he was just like the biggest legend ever, you know. Like I you know, that was like, you know, having his like, you know, presence and that like there was just amazing. And like we had a hell night. Like it was crazy. Like I didn't have a hell of a night as he did, but like he was, you know, I seen that wild side and how fucking, you know, nice he is. And yeah, that was probably one of my best moments in bodyboarding, where you said, you know, like that karma or whatever, you know, it just kind of happened, you know. It was like, it was rad.
That is such a rad story, man. They would have been so blown out. He would have been like, what the fuck? Like, where'd this cunt come from?
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
like
exactly.
walked in, he's paddled out his own, he's paddling this joint.
Yeah.
And like when they're towing, from memory, they kind of predominantly towed that session. I think maybe they tried to paddle a couple at the start. Andy, I feel like he got real flexed at the start, maybe.
Yeah, Parko was there too. But yeah, no, I think the rules there, you have to paddle before you tow. So they were all paddling. And then
Dill Longbottom was on that trip
yeah,
too.
Dylan
True, how
was
cosmic
there.
to come full circle.
Yeah.
And now you're sponsored by Billabong and you're out there with your a guy you grew up in the same street as. And he obviously, you guys have so much history, and I'm sure the connection is really strong. And Andy would have been a guy who loved Dill as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And Andy as well, you know, being from Hawaii, like, no doubt he would have to have immense respect for bodyboarders, because most native Hawaiians bodyboard. Like, that's kind of the scene in Hawaii is like a lot of those waves are just dominated by like low socio-economic native Hawaiians on bodyboards who are fully sending it. And also just to see your approach out there, fuck it. Like it's almost the perfect day for you to flourish, because like those kind of, especially in that era of shippy surfing, like those days that were borderline tow and paddle days. Yeah. That's just a paddle day for a bodyboarder.
Yeah,
like
it is now. Yeah, it's still, I look back at it the other day and I was like, oh, it's still kind of solid, you know?
Yeah.
But I thought it was like, would look small, but it was actually a really good big day still.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was like a really, really fun trip. And growing up where he did in Kauai, I know a couple of bodyboarders that, you know, they ended up being surfers, and they showed me some of the waves that are there, and it was just like, wow.
Fuck,
you
they
know,
must
they don't
have some boog slabs there.
Yeah, I don't think they don't take photos. They don't do anything.
It's so good how they've done that. It's one of the only places on earth where they've really managed to keep a lid on that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's like, I like that. Yeah.
And like in terms of being sponsored by Billabong, like, you're really one of the very few bodyboarders who ever got industry support. Like, how did that come about, and how was that received as well by the bodyboarding community? Yeah,
I think there was definitely a couple, but I definitely had some like dramas in there. But I had a really, really good, like, it was. I think I rode for him for like 16 years, and at the time was like one of the longest. Like Parko and Oki were the longest, and I was like right there with them. But I had a really good relationship with Bruce Lee. For whatever reason, he just he liked me, and it would look so unprofessional, like compared to surfing with managers or whatever. They go, every time the contract was up, and I go, bring in all the mags that I was in, and go, here you go, this is what I was in. He goes, what do you want? And I go, and like just mumbling, 50 grand. He goes, yeah, sweet. And I was like, sweet. Didn't even have to, should have said 60, so it wasn't like crazy amount, but, and then you get some photos stuff or whatever, but it was, he would just say yes to everything, and even to this day, I see him still down there, and we always have a chat and surf, and it's good. But he was like, one of the heavier guys at Snapper, and so he didn't have to like me. Especially being a bodyboarder.
Yeah, so what was your relationship with like the surfing fraternity at that point? I mean, I imagine you're doing all these trips to Hawaii, you're at these spots, you're on these trips with Andy and shit. So how does like you, Mick, Joel, Dean, like the heavy hitters, Bruce Lee, like how are they treating you in that lineup? What's the dynamic like?
It was good. Like, I mean, cause like I grew up with like Fisher, like he lived just down the road. We'd surf Broadbeach, and so I was always kind of around those crew.
Oh, so when did you move to the Goldie?
Oh, I was probably like 12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Right.
pretty young.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then, just being around those guys a lot, and Dean and Sean and Mick and all those guys. Like,
Right, yeah, you're part of that community growing up, and you're fucking elite. You're getting pits that they can't get, so they're going to respect that.
But then obviously there was the same kind of time frame. So there was like, they would be all around the world, and then you go different. And then, I knew Ty Buddha, like those guys really well, surfed with all of them. So it's kind of like we're really good mates, but then we're in totally two different worlds at the same time. So, but now it's kind of come back where you see him a lot more, so it's good. And Mick's like a legend. Like I stayed with him in Hawaii a couple of times, all those guys. So yeah, it's good fun. Like those, yeah, I've like all of the crew that I used to hang out with, we were always really good friends with them. So it was like, it was one and the same almost,
It's always been like that at the elite level, I feel like, or even not even necessarily at the elite level, but people who can surf, like properly surf, who put their time in, and the same with bodyboarders who are putting their time in and getting to a solid level. There's always like a camaraderie there because you're surfing the same kinds of waves. You're encouraging each other. You're taking care of each other. Like shit goes pear shaped sometimes, and it's also just so good when you're in some fucking weird joint. Chasing waves to bump into one of those guys, which you invariably do. And then, you got a mate to surf with and hang with. And it doesn't matter what craft they're on. That's so irrelevant. The friction seems to develop further down the rungs when you've just kind of got kooks on sticks who just fade bodyboarders because they're still on some 1980s operating system of like fucking, like bodyboarders.
Oh, I get it. Because I've been surfing a lot more now. And it's so much harder to turn around on a surfboard than a bodyboard. So bodyboarders just turn around on a dime and get under people and annoy the shit out of people. And I can admit that now. It's like, oh yeah, I kind of get it. So it's like, it takes a lot longer to, navigate the lineup on a surfboard, I think. So on a bodyboard, you can be under a lot of people and really annoy people. So that can cause friction.
100%. And don't worry, there's plenty of kooks in the bodyboarding realm who will game the system and take advantage of exactly what you're talking about, and they deserve to get burnt. So.
Yeah. But then you just got to know which spots, if you want to be up for that argument, then go surf Lennox on a bodyboard. See what happens, If you're up for it, then go for it. But if you want to go to, I don't know if there's any more, spots like that, but there would be maybe ours still like that. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be. It seems like it's a free-for-all.
It's a free-for-all.
But there would be, a few spots out there still left that are,
Mate, one of the other things I understood about you, like, so you were kind of Mike Stewart's protege at a certain point. Is that a fair thing to say? Like, you were sponsored by him and, I guess, pretty close with him. What was that like? Like, Stewart is he's the Kelly Slater of bodyboarding. And, I mean, when you were a Grom as well, this is like early days, huh? Like, when you were a teenager and shit. Like,
no, it was good. Like, I went to Hawaii one year. I got expelled early on in year 10, I think. So I was like, all right, I'm going to Hawaii, which I don't know how my parents let me go because I just got expelled. So
just like, for poor attendancy?
It was at Miami High, so you could go and check the surf up on top of the hill.
Oh, yeah, that's not.
And we'd always do that, and I just did it one too many times, and then that was it.
It's not good. It's not really conducive to high attendance rates, is it, when you can check the surf?
I mean, it's nothing bad or anything, but it was like, so I had 3 months off at the end of the year, and I just surfed non-stop. I had to finish year 10 in like like a TAFE or some shit. But it was like, and then, so I went to Hawaii that year, and I just surfed my brains out for like 6 weeks, and it was just like an eye-opener for me. Like, I come down that hill, towards Haleiwa, and I was like, far out, how's those mountains? They're huge. And it was actually waves. It was like an eddy day that I rocked up.
No way.
So I'm just looking at these going, wow, this place is unbelievable, you know? So I just surfed non-stop the whole time, and I was out off the wall, and then I got this big closeout, which, because the waves move so quick there, I just pulled in this big pit. Didn't think it was going to barrel because it's just a big peak. I was like, oh, how's this peak going to go? And then just barreled. Stewart was paddling out at the same time, and he was just hooting and everything. And then I got back to Australia, and he rang me. Yeah, he just said, oh, I want to sponsor you. And that happened. Next year I stayed, or next couple of years I was staying with him there. And that was, yeah, really, yeah, a big honour, you know. That was really cool. I think he's probably not the best team manager because, like, he was so competitive. It'd be like riding, like, for a Slater's brand or something, you know. Like, Slater's going to beat that other kid.
Yeah, he wants
he's
to crush
never
you.
gonna like he's never gonna like, I don't know what the, you know, mentorship would be, but it's not there, you know. So it's like,
well, mate, it's a crazy idea.
Yeah.
He was so far ahead of the curve in terms of having his own brand even. Like, this is something that surfing's only just started to do with, you know, former, Rage, Apocky, like, pro surfers are starting companies now.
Yeah.
Skating's been doing it for a long time.
Yep.
But Stewart was doing this, like, over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It was Mike Stewart Science.
Yeah,
what he was?
Science, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, like, the infrastructure wouldn't have been there. You know, look,
Well,
John's
yeah.
got a fucking a brand, but, like, Bob Hurley's running it for him. So, like,
that's cool.
Yeah, Stewart probably needed some wingman to fucking help him run it and be the team manager.
Yeah.
He's the face. He shouldn't be doing board orders and shit, but he probably was.
Yeah. Well, it's out of necessity with bodyboarding because I think he was sponsored by Moray and Mattel. Mattel owned Moray, which was like the biggest toy company in the world. And so he was, you know, obviously there was a falling out or something. They started putting the bodyboards in Costco with his name on it. And there was this whole litigation shit. Like, he had one of the most amazing houses I've ever seen in the Big Island. Just incredible. I don't know what ended up happening to that, but so he was, he would have been earning a lot of money back for a while, and then that ended. So the first thing to stay in, you know, surfing is create your own brand, you know, and try and make it that way. So yeah, he did that, and a few years later, he got me on his team rider and a few other guys, and I was staying there, which was really, really good. But it was probably almost, for me, it was too much pressure because it was just like, you know, Mike was, I wouldn't say he's at his peak then. I think 96 was his peak from my, like, you know, what I like to see of him. But yeah, it was probably too much pressure for me because all of a sudden I'm traveling around with Mike and everyone expecting like huge things from me. And, you know, there was days when, like, he'd paddle out at those outer reefs and I'd have to come out there with him. And I'm like, I'm not up for this yet, you know, like, it's
How old were you?
16 or 17.
Fuck yeah, man. That's wild.
Yeah. And just some of the biggest waves I've ever been in, you know, and he'd just be like, up for it and let's go, you know. So I'm like, you know, those waves are different too. They're big waves, you know, not slabs. Like, slabs, you know, don't terrify me as much as big waves, you know.
And it's a terrain that was only really surfed by bodyboarders during that period. It feels like since then it's just all gone back to slabs again. But like, that was, like, he was even surfing Jaws and stuff, right?
Yeah,
like,
Jaws and like all those
towing in at Jaws, yeah.
So it was like, you know, he was still super competitive. He still is now, you know. So it was like he's obviously he's done well, but the dynamic of it was changed for me in a lot of ways. It wasn't as fun being under him, you know. Whereas, like, it's if you just learn from the best, but it's kind of that whole don't become friends with your hero type deal.
100%,
you know, type of thing, you know, like, it's.
And these people are rare birds. They're so driven. Like, you know, you watch The Last Dance of Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, Stewart's like the Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
of
totally.
bodyboarding. And it's
Yeah.
like, can you imagine being fucking Michael Jordan's protege? The cunt was so miserable
Yeah.
and aggressive and competitive and just
Yep.
like so driven. And I'm not saying Stewart's like that, but you know, Slater's like you said, it's
Yeah.
another good example. Like, these people aren't cut out to be mentors.
Nah,
really, they're,
definitely
they're,
not.
They're running their own race. They're like
Yeah.
compete. You know, and the thing is about people who achieve that level of greatness, they're so hard on themselves.
Yep.
That's how they get there.
Yeah.
And they're as hard often on the people around them as
Yeah,
they are on
totally.
themselves.
Yeah.
And that's brutal to be around.
Yeah. And when you get like, I'm like that, and two of us like that, like I just didn't, you know, I don't drink or do drugs or anything like that, but every now and then I'll have a drink, you know, but he wouldn't. And so we'd be in places like Japan and traveling, and it was just a really serious vibe all the time. So it's like, you crack out of that sometimes, like, you know, and want to do something your own age with a 16-year-old or whatever, you know. So it's like, you know, I think he was well into his 30s then. So, you know, so it's like I'm hanging, you know, not with my crew or whatever, you know. And I remember, this is a funny story. I don't know how much time we got, but
We've got endless time, mate.
I was like with another buddy of mine, Brad Hughes, who was,
Oh,
you know,
yeah. I know Brad Hughes.
yeah.
Brad Hughes, West Oz, fucking slab lord burger, son of
Kim Hughes.
famous Australian cricket
Yeah,
player,
yeah.
Kim Hughes. Yeah.
Yeah, so he comes around and like it was in Hawaii, and I just like, man, come around. We ended up getting like, I think they had like two 40-ounce beers there, those huge ones.
Oh, yeah, classic.
So we had like two, and Mike was away, and he's going, let's just grab his boards and just fucking go up to V-Land or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
And we were like properly hammered, like properly fucking hammered, like 2 at 16 or 17, and riding up the path. We go surfing up near Sunset or wherever, and I remember like we were so drunk out in the surf, and Hughesy catches like an outside rail. Like you can't catch an outside rail like on a bodyboard. Like, and I just remember dying of like underwater laughing.
Yeah.
We didn't have leashes on. We come up, he loses his board and it gets stolen. so we're like stressing, like Stewart's board's gone. He still wouldn't know. Like, but it's like, you might now if he listens, but it's we were riding back, and we were like, Brad was like spewing up riding home and everything.
No way.
Bumped into it like some Ferrari and knocked the windscreen off. It was just like, so this is all where I'm staying at Stewart, where you got to be like, you're an A++ student of like the craft. Like just.
You've just
and
ripped
he
off your
goes-
sensei's
he-
fucking samurai
Yeah.
and just fucking...
He just goes for one day, and that happens. Like one board goes missing. Like hectic.
That's fucking
Yeah.
hilarious. Yeah, I was just thinking as well, like, far out, man. Being in your 30s and hanging out with Groms, like,
Yeah.
like basically anyone younger than 25 is
Yeah.
fucking torture.
Yeah.
It just is.
It was, and we were traveling the world together too, doing all the comps and doing all the prep.
You're both a teacher and a father.
Yeah.
But like those people don't see you as either a teacher or a father. They just see you as someone to fucking argue with.
Yeah, yeah.
And be like grumpy. I don't know. Like it works sometimes, and at other times it's torture. It is like just being a parent, basically. You're basically
Yeah.
a parent of some kid that's not yours.
Yeah, and I think it was just he was, like so competitive. It'd be like, a Protege under Slater, and they're still competing on the tour together.
Yeah.
And it's like there's just a dynamic that is not needed. It's like not. Yeah, it's not necessary.
It's a
you know?
hilarious concept to think of Slater with a Protege on tour that he's competing against. And like actually, funnily enough, like surfing in the 80s, 90s, when Slater first got on the tour, and a lot of those American guys, when they kind of come of age and got on tour, it was like a bit like what you're saying. Like you're traveling around with these guys, these elder statesmen, a lot of them Australians.
Yeah.
And at times they're kind of a mentor, but then they're also like, there's so little money around, so it's
Yeah.
like they're just fighting for crumbs, so they're kind of also don't have your best interests at heart a lot of the time. So they can also use that seniority to stitch you up and get your maggot before a heat, or just fucking also just like brutally stand over you and intimidate you, and like that dynamic in that period of surfing was ultra toxic. And pretty gnarly for the Groms at that time.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. It just wasn't like, you don't want to be riding under someone of that. Like, you don't want to be Michael Jordan's protege. You don't want to be anyone's protege. You just want to do your thing,
Yeah.
And
it can work if, like, you've just got a coach. Like, you've just got someone who's only in your corner and has your best interest at heart. But anything but that's not going to work. But what about his, like, the surfing you've seen him do? Like, Stewart's crazy because he's surely, there's probably 2 bodyboarders that have got the respect to get almost any wave they want at pipe. It's him, kind of McGee, I would say.
Yeah.
But Stewart, and I guess he's Hawaiian. You forget that he's from fucking Kona.
Yeah, Kona, yeah.
So he's come of age with, like, all of those guys at pipe from...
Yeah, I think he really... I mean, I did ask him stories, but he really had to work at it too.
Yeah, of course, being white, being not native and a bodyboarder. But it's that whole thing that you've experienced. Like, he would have been getting waves that they couldn't fathom. So, like, once you see that happen a few times, once Derek Ho or Johnny Boy Gomes see you knife one that they... are disgusted by because it's so deadly. Yeah. And you make that wave or even go that wave, they fucking really admire that.
Yeah, I think so. Like, it was... But yeah, from what he would... I'd watch all these old tapes. He had heaps of old VHS tapes and everything. So I'd just study them and watch them. And it was, like, really cool. But yeah, he would say that, back in the day, like, he got nothing. Like, there was, like, times when... I think it was Perry Dane and people like that would get gnarly on him, and I think he used to always say the only guy you do not want to mess with is Kai Garcia.
Oh yeah,
I really don't want to mess with that. That's who he goes, never get in trouble with that guy.
Yeah.
So it was like that was his thing, but I thought being with Mike, and that was another thing at pressure. Got paddling out pipe with him. I don't want to paddle out pipe with Mike. I don't want to feel like I'm that person that is going to get a wave because, Mike. I want to blend in and, get in under people and be unnoticed, at those type of waves. I don't want that, paddling out there. You'd be like, oh, come out. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that shit. Not here. That's not my deal, Like, I'd rather, go out on a big, gnarly day and that's washing through and get a good one instead of, like, people knowing who you are, so especially there.
Yeah. And talk to us about his surfing at pipe because he got to a point where he could choose which waves he wanted. Like, so he's able to properly express himself on, like, second reef roll-ins, like doing spinners before it fucking heaves and harks on the first reef. Like, what's like the benchmark of Stewart surfing at that wave? What's the best surfing you've seen him do or the best session?
Well, I think I never probably got to see him do his best surfing. Like, it was in 96 that he was, like, just flawless, it seemed, out there. Like, he could, do everything, like spin, take off second reef, come through, do, actually link the whole way through doing moves. It was like, I've never seen anyone do that since, And it's hard because, like, pipe's a type of break, like, where, if you can get waves, you're going to look good. You can even see it with, like, Gabriel Medina when he surfs big pipe. Like, that guy, to me, is, like, unbelievable because he doesn't have those opportunities much, but he matches them at Chopu, matches them at pipe. It's like, that guy is freakishly good. And, so pipe is, like, an interesting one. If you put in the time and you can get waves, it's such a perfect wave to look. You even look at that one Harry Bryant got, in that comp. There's so many talented people that can ride that wave. They just can't get waves there.
100%.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
But then you look at what John does out there, and it's like, that is super special.
Well, that's the thing. Like, as you know, pipe has so many different faces to it. So, like, on a day where there's a bit of a chip from just behind first reef, and you can get into those ones, like a little bit of a wedge or a slight roll in, like, pretty much any QS level guy
Yeah.
can get it done out there, I reckon.
Yeah.
But last time I was in Pipe in February, I don't think I saw one of those days. I was only there for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't see a single day where there was the opportunity to chip into one. Every wave
Yeah.
was just fucking under the lip, first reef,
Yeah.
like where they, might be. Like, I swear, even on a 6-foot pipe wave, it's fucking like 10 foot plus on the drop when it wedges and
Yeah,
just
it's
apexes and
crazy.
it goes all black. The water goes all black on the big ones. You're just like, oh, yuck.
Yeah.
So, like, there's so many faces to it. And, like, the crazy thing about bodyboarding and what I fucking love about it, and I only got to see this, I got to see this only once in 2014 when I was there, was like a couple of those really big, ugly swells. They're the bodyboarding days.
Yeah.
And it's so sick because it's fucking mutant out there. It's just like a huge mutant beach break.
Yep.
And like, I remember on this day, Andre Botha was out there just fucking putting on a clinic
Yeah.
in the kinds of conditions like, they're just no one wanted a bar off. And he's making it look
Yeah, he's another
fun and
special
easy.
character.
Yeah,
He's
he's out
like-
there, man.
Yeah, just so calm when it's like he shouldn't be calm. Especially paddling back out at backdoor and, where second reef is coming through and he would just duck dive, like it's nothing, and yeah, he's just an animal in those situations where it's like, it's crazy,
And like a really big frame, like, I think he looked like he's about 6'5", 6'6",
Yeah,
or
he's a
something.
big guy, yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
that's a body type that
Yeah.
really suits bodyboarding, doesn't it? Having that kind of the extra, the body's acting as a fin or
Yeah.
some kind of traction in the water. You
Yeah.
can see it on like, mate, he was getting these like fucking like 10-foot double ups, like that were kind of running into gums, and then he would like but he's scoop into it the way his body would be like dragged up the
Yeah.
face. He's lower back flexibility.
Yeah,
off the
no,
charts.
he's I think he still lives there. Does he live in Hawaii?
I don't know. Yeah, no idea.
But yeah, he's one guy that he's just so calm when it's like just chaos around him, So it's and he was like another one of those Groms that was 15 and touted like next Mike Stewart, and he was, but not everyone's a Mike Stewart, So it was like he had the ability in that, but didn't have the personality as Stewart. But he still, I think he won like 3 world titles. Like it's
That's
crazy.
crazy.
I think I watched them all as well, and it was like, man, some of the events they won world titles. That was like, man, in Japan, and it's like 1 foot, and you're just like groveling. It's like, wow, this is nuts. Like, yeah,
Wow.
that's crazy.
That's hilarious. It's so parallel to like pro tour surfing in the
Yeah,
early 90s, late 80s. And like, so Hawaii, like, you managed to get a lot of waves out there. I watch your videos and like it surprised me. Like how many sick ones you get at Pipe.
Yeah.
Like on days where it looks like a pretty good Pipe day. It's like obviously you're surfing it on the more unruly days too.
Yeah.
And maybe some of those waves are on those days, but they're just perfect ones that you've picked.
Yeah, just time out there. Like
yeah.
I'd spend 6, 7, 8 hours a day out there, like,
Wow.
and not go in. And then every now and then you get that moment where there's like, you'll get one and go, oh, all the locals have gone in. And then you get like an hour of like bliss, and then they all come back out. So it's like, you got to put in the time, like that's what I would say to anyone that is gonna, want to do well in surfing, is they've got to, especially at those breaks, which are so monumental or pivotal to their career, is go and surf Pipe for 8-10 hours. I don't care if you don't get anything, just feel it, know it, and understand it, because they're the moments that count, I guess, like in professional surfing anyway. Like if you're not a professional surfer, or don't want to go down that way, don't surf Pipe. Don't even go out there. Go somewhere else. Like go to some misto wave in Indo and get your feel, because it's a sick wave, but you're battling it with the 80 of the best and the angriest. So it's like, what's the point? Yeah.
So did you get to go to Kona with Mike? Surf
Yeah,
with
went
them
to the
weird
Big Island.
slabs?
Yeah, went to Big Island once. Didn't really score, but got to check out like his crazy property. He had this nuts property. It was like in a big valley, and it had its own like waterfall, like gnarly big waterfall, and ran out to the ocean. It was like so idyllic. Like it was just crazy. And yeah, it was a bit of a, yeah, it was kind of a couple of Hawaiian guys were on the team as well. So we went there with those guys. And Mike's a pretty serious guy. So anything you did, you were always like kind of walking around on eggshells. That's what it felt like anyway. I remember we caught some fish out the back and we were cooking it up on his stove. And then and actually Phil Gallagher was there taking photos. We're cooking this fish and all the fat and stuff was like spraying everywhere. And I remember Mike coming back in going, fuck, what are you doing? Like, and we're just going, fuck, like just stressing, like, you know, it's just getting scolded by like the champ. It's just like so intense. It's just like almost you just want to like, you know, high pressure situation, just we're just surfing, man. We just want to surf and have fun. And you just felt like, you know, you're always on like in that competitive environment, you know, it was just like gnarly. So so many funny stories like that where you're not quite yourself because you're in this huge amount of pressure.
Fuck.
But
it's such a terrifying dynamic because like it's just also really hard because he's so much older.
Yeah.
And like that in itself is such a fucking barrier. Like the older I get, the more I just want to hang out with people my own age.
Yeah, for sure. Like
the more I end up hanging out with Groms all the time for some reason, just because you're surfing and you're on trips and shit, and you're just like, fuck, like.
But it was a really good time. Like we didn't get that many waves or anything, but it was like just to see his place and. Yeah, it was pretty rad. And
how sick is Kona and like Hilo and all that? That joint's fucking mental. It's just like old school Polynesia.
Yeah.
Like
well, I think it was like where the bodyboard was invented too by Tom Moray.
No way.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Like Tom Moray was like, I think he ran the first, I'm pretty sure it was Tom Moray, ran the first professional surfing contest because he was making surfboards before bodyboards.
Whoa.
So there's like crazy history there, you know, like on what it is. And then even, I think it was Shane Dorian used to ride on Mike's back. I don't know if that's another George Greeno myth, but he used to ride on Mike's back at like those different waves, you know, there. That's a story. And I think there is truth to it too, because Dorian talks about Mike a little bit.
Yeah. Well, they're both from Kona.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that kind of lineage of surfer like Stewart, Dorian, and then going down through the generations. I think the next kind of big names like maybe Tori Meister, and Cliff Capono, but like what they all have in common is like, fuck man, they're really good in waves of consequence. Like because the waves on that island are very tricky and hard to surf. It's not as perfect as the North Shore of Oahu. It's like more boog friendly and like it kind of makes sense. Like Dorian and Tori Meister are definitely guys who've grown up surfing bodyboarding waves, and those guys that grow up surfing bodyboarding waves like John Florence, Nate Florence, Russ Björk, like fuck man,
all the bodyboarders
Kip
used
Caddy.
to stay with John.
Is that right? Yeah, right.
Like all of them
because his mum was renting out floor space, right?
So that was like the place to be. You know, so there was like always 10, 20 bodyboarders there.
That's
like,
so
always.
crazy.
Yeah. So it was funny because like I think I stayed there maybe once, but it was you'd see some of the characters that would come through there. It was like crazy, you know, like was it Sean Barney Barron?
Oh
Remember that guy? Yeah, he was like a proper character. Like he was hilarious, you know, and seeing all those guys, you know, but there's always bodyboarders, you know, in that little staying at that house.
Mate, that's one of the things that inspired me growing up. My mates who bodyboarded, who were going to Hawaii regularly, like they would come back and they would tell you these stories about like staying in tents in someone's backyard, or like, you know, the only way, because it was expensive then. It's even more expensive now. The only way to make it work if you're surfing and you're not flush of cash is you got to have some connection in the community and know
Yeah.
where those spots are.
Yeah.
And the way you get that is like those guys were helpful in pointing us towards cheaper comm but like talk to us about that culture is so classic. That's what I also loved about the bodyboarding culture in Hawaii in particular was that like people would just muck in and stay like as cheap as they could and just surf the wave, like just absolutely dedicate themselves to pipe and surf it under all conditions for long periods of time. But what was the setup in terms of like the lifestyle that your mates were living over there? It must have been pretty.
I mean, it happened everywhere. Like you just traveled with a big group, so that's just the way it was. Like, but Hawaii, I don't know if you can do that anymore. I think it's almost too expensive to stay anywhere on the beach, you know. So, but anywhere we went, you know, was like, you know, another places, Canary Islands, you know, that's like pretty much the Hawaii for bodyboarding now.
It is it's the mecca of bodyboarding, like the global mecca.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because it's fully off the map when it comes to stand up surfing.
Yeah, it's surprising though.
But it is and it isn't, because it's like there's two reasons I think why. It's like like the waves are definitely more akin to bodyboarding.
Yeah.
And also the island is run and dominated by bodyboarders.
Yeah.
And those bodyboarders are fucking pretty gnarly.
Like, they can be. Yeah,
they can be pretty staunch. So it's like there's three good reasons why
probably
you wouldn't go there unless you're an elite level surfer. And even if you are, like, there's just a lot of kind of slabby zones you can go where you're not going to be like dealing with bodyboarders who are demanding their slice of the pie and put you at the bottom of that pecking order. It's sick. It's like this bizarro world of where bodyboarders run the show.
I know, it's strange. Like, even we got fully run out of town for a little bit. Not run out of town, but like we were told to, you know, impolitely to get out of the water basically right now.
Yeah.
So and these were guys that were in the like UFC and boxers and gnarly guys, and like throwing like basketball sized rocks at us and shit.
No way.
So, yeah.
What happened? Why was that?
Just, I think it was just, I don't know. I can see it, you know, like we'd just come over once a year, take photos, get footage and stuff. And, you know, like either by default or not, you know, not share the footage or whatever. I don't really know. But looking back now, it should be like, if you go to these places, film their guys, give them all the footage, do whatever you need to do to keep it cool. You just don't go there and film, take that and go, you know, and make yourself famous or whatever you're trying to do. You know, I think that's a big problem, and you don't see that as a pro surfer or bodyboarder. You're just so blinded by, you know, making yourself bigger than what, you know, you are. Whereas they're just there surfing, having fun, you know, and obviously they're trying to make it too. They want to be a part of that traveling and do that. And if you're there filming their break and they don't get any footage on their videos, they get pretty upset, which you would. It makes sense now that when you're older, but when you're in it, you're like, no, you do it yourself, you know, like, but I think that was the contributing kind of factor. But then it blew over within a day because we're, you know, good friends, but it was just like a blow up, you know, and now we're like, it'd be fine. Like I never like would go back there and, you know, film and, you know, just, you know, do that style of filming again or whatever it is, you know, but they don't, they're very protective like that in that regard. Just respect more than, you know, being out there in the lineup. Anyone can go. You're probably not going to get a wave because I've never seen more frothers over there than anywhere. Like, you think pipe's bad, you go to places there and it's like a bubbling mess when a set comes in. It's just like, and because you're kicking with fins, it's just shit everywhere, you know, like crazy. But it's just like Hawaii, you know. I haven't been to all the islands, and I think the other islands are a bit more like no filming, no doing all that, which is
in the Canaries.
Rad. Yeah.
So there's how many islands?
I think there's about 8 or 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and you
crazy.
can see Canaries from Morocco on a clear day. That's how close it is.
Yeah. It's out there in the Atlantic,
Yeah.
and I guess like Hawaii's copping swells in the Atlantic too, but it's just way further south.
Oh,
Is that right?
yeah, no, they're in the North Pacific, but yeah, Atlantic, like Nazare and all that, same storms.
Oh,
and
so,
that, so
so like the Canaries is in the North Pacific, Hawaii's in the South Pacific? Or
they're
what?
in the Atlantic.
Oh,
Ocean.
okay.
Yeah.
Right, so yeah, different.
Yeah,
So,
there's a bit of land in
geography
the way.
fail.
But yeah, it's a rad place. I think Noah went there recently, surfed a couple of waves, but he was the same. He ended up getting out on a bodyboard because it's just too hard on the surfboard or too full on, with a crowd.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that place is like crazy good.
Fuck, man, that wave that they've got there, the one that it's not a secret front on. They've got the front on classic there.
Yeah.
Whatever, some big comp, and it's fucking so like Chopes related. It's just like a backless fucking slab that looks almost impossible to get into on a stick.
It's amazing, and that's where they like. I always kind of, they have a bodyboarding tour, but they travel all around the world, and only 5 people could potentially maybe win it. But they drag the rest of the world around with them, and I'm just like, just have one comp at Fronton. There's a bunch of waves next to it too that are equally as good, and they should just have like a Triple Crown or whatever, right then. Just have it for a month. They could get everyone to go there and just have that compact kind of tour.
Sick idea.
Just makes sense, but they want to grow the sport globally, and it's like it's too small to grow it globally.
It's idiotic, and surfing's in a really similar space where there's so much room for other competition formats that aren't being explored, and I just can't believe it hasn't happened. Like we want to see a showcase of what's possible. We do want to see the outer limits of performance, and for me, like in surfing and in bodyboarding, it really boils down to waves of consequence. Like that's really what I want to watch the most. Like I want to see guys getting really barreled, having to risk their safety, show courage and technique under fire, and it doesn't have to be fucking 45 or 35 of the world's best. It doesn't even have to be for a world title. It can be for a paycheck or some trophy or some level of prestige.
Yeah.
But I think that like formats like that are such a sick idea. Just like hand pick, like or have a council of elders to pick like who the 10 or 5 best guys on the planet are, and put them in those kinds of waves and create a product that we can watch. Like surfing did kind of have that at a point with the Billabong Super Challenges, like the rabbit come up with actually, and that was sick. They were epic videos. I'd love to see some more concepts like that.
But I'd hope they should just do it because it's affordable. Like everyone can afford to go to one place for the year, That was a big thing, that the downfall with bodyboarding. They had like 10 events around the world and no one's getting paid over $100,000. And that was the top. The rest are getting 20.
Yeah, running at a massive financial loss.
Yeah, everyone's running at a loss. And that brings it back to, like everyone crowding in and, traveling together. So it was like, that's the only way you could do it. But yeah, it just wasn't sustainable, So it's, I just hope they can, if they want the sport to progress, they just need to, run those big events at waves of consequence and just make a really cool package out of it and keep everyone stoked, because I don't think that globalization of a world tour and bodyboarding will never take off. Like it's just too much going on.
And talk to us about front and the wave. Like what kind of a setup is it? I've only seen a few photos and clips, but
it's an ultimate bodyboard wave because it's pretty much a rideable Cyclops. That's what it's like. It's not as heavy, but it's the same shape and same feel, and it breaks from 1 foot to maybe 15 foot.
Wow.
And just incredible. Like I love that spot. Like there's parts of that island where I just would move to and just live there, and it'd just be like rad, but yeah, it's just like an incredible kind of place to, incredible waves and just amazing. But it's got ramps, big barrels. It's kind of got everything.
What's it like at 15 foot?
Yeah, it's psycho. It's proper like, you can get some really, really good ones, and then sometimes it'll. Yeah, I mean, you might have seen that footage of Brendo when we first went there.
I don't know. Is that in one of Mickey Smith's old
Yeah,
films?
Mickey Smith's, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to track that down.
Yeah.
Watching that.
So I was there with him, and yeah, it was like, yeah, crazy.
What's that film called?
I'm not sure which one. Yeah, it's been in a few, but yeah, it's just a wild wave that breaks. Yeah. From 1 foot to 15 foot and just offers everything. So it's perfect for bodyboarding. Probably one of the few ways that isn't good for surfing, really.
Why is that, you reckon?
Just too short and too intense, you know, and I couldn't imagine having fun even if I was a world-class surfer. I mean, on the rights, you'd probably get some really good pits, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's,
but
it's an A-frame, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't really open up on it either, like, whereas... I mean, it's so different now. There's so many different types of surfers that could go really well. You know, it'd be sick to see, but predominantly it'd be a bodyboard wave. I think it suits it way more.
The thickness of it's like the thickness and backless nature of it, but then like the ratio of like pit width. It's like there's more thickness in the back of the wave than hollowness in the tube, kind of thing. Like it's if I haven't seen that much footage or photos of it, but I don't know. Is that a fair kind of description?
Yeah.
Like
It's like just a mushroom style reef, and then just drops off into the deepest water.
Right.
And I was always like under the impression that there's one of those places you go to, oh yeah, there's no sharks here, and I'm like sick. I don't care where I go out here. I'm surfing everywhere. And then I heard like, nah, there's great hammerheads, and I'm like, have you ever seen a great hammerhead?
Fuck, they're probably humongous.
They're
they
just
get so
massive.
big.
And they go, yeah, they're just always around out there. And I'm like, fuck, you've just ruined this spot for me. Like, I don't want to surf with this shit.
Yeah, but they're sweet, eh? They're docile,
Apparently
aren't they?
not,
Yeah.
but they're still massive.
They're humongous.
You know?
They get so big.
And I remember being out there one day and I just seen this like fin just like circling. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then like after I heard it, yeah, there's heaps of these great hammerheads out there. I was like, holy shit.
Fuck.
Yeah.
And what about surfers, man? Like, you know, who really impresses you in the surf world, and what do you like about the surfing?
Oh, I mean, that runs deep, but I've definitely got three favourites for sure. It'd be, obviously, I think John is just like, at my work, I just have him on the video playing all day.
Yeah.
And it kind of alternates between Andy Irons, John, and Rasta.
Yeah.
I think that's like I mean, there's so many, but those three, you know, they've got something going on. You know, like, yeah, I think they kind of embody every part of surfing that you'd want. Like, Andy Irons, like, he's still timeless. Like, it's crazy. Like, you look back at the footage and he's only like, he died when he was like 32, wasn't it? So he's pretty young, really freaking young now. Like,
so young, yeah.
But he appears larger than life still, you know, for a lot of people still. So, and then you look at his footage and you just go, man, like, he's crazy how good he was. You know, like, underrated for the time that when he was at his peak. Still, I think people only really recognise now, like, you know, looking at his turns and what he does is like, you know, no one was attacking Cloudbreak like he was on his backhand and doing the turns he was doing. It's just like, that still hasn't been done since, you know, really. You know, a few guys maybe, but not that many.
No, like, he's so raw, but his technique is so pure and clean. There's just like, he's able to attack it so aggressively, but everything's so buttery at the same time.
Yeah.
Fucking like a rare talent like maybe an Ethan Ewing could get to that level, like, and has shades of him, but he's,
I mean, Chopu, then he just does that.
Exactly,
It's just
well, that's
like,
the thing.
You know, he's got that raw ability to just do it all.
Exactly,
you know?
he's so good in the juice, and that's something that I don't think anyone's really had that style and ability. In a performance. On performance waves, and then being able to transfer it to waves that can kill you.
Yeah, like, you know, John will surf any kind of wave and then go out those outer reefs and then go win the eddy. And win, you know, stuff that is normally reserved for those, you know, bigger wave style guys. But just shows how much ability he has and how much he loves surfing. You know, like he just brought out a new clip yesterday, and I was like, fuck, this is like, it's insane how good he is. You know, just those turns at rock piles and everything.
Fuck,
It's crazy.
I haven't seen it yet.
Crazy.
What can we expect from that? What blew you away about that?
Just you can just tell he loves surfing more first and foremost. Like, you know, he probably that's what, you know, those riders have. You can just tell that they just want to surf all day, and you know, and yeah, they just got a natural kind of ability and flair to them. You know, they're just, yeah, it's just rad, I think. Yeah, and then Rasta, I went to the same school with Rasta, and I just, remember, seeing him at Stratty a couple of times and just getting the sickest pits, and now he's got that full, you know, enigmatic kind of, you know, view of him, and it's just like everyone wants a part of him, but no one gets to see him. It's like crazy, you know?
Yeah, he's kind of mythological in a similar way to Greeno, and funnily enough, they live near each other, they're good friends, and like that's definitely an esoteric genre of surfing that's existed since the start of the culture. Guys who try to kind of extricate themselves from the matrix and just surf the way they want, and you know, they're generally a little bit parallel to the industry and mainstream norms, but amongst the core and the purists, they're so adored for their, just the lines and the pure connection to the wave, and their ability to just really connect with energy and almost become one with the energy in a way that's just so beautiful to watch.
Yeah. But I think, with surfing too, there's so many good riders, whereas in bodyboarding there is a lot of good riders, but surfing they're just everywhere, really. You know, there's so many characters and different aspects to the sport, you know, twin fins, like log riders, you know, big wave riders, paddleboarders, you name it. There's just, it's really like, you know, like I'd say it's the high performance of surfing, you know, like just generally.
There's a lot more room for style and different approaches and different techniques and different equipment for sure. And what about your like surfing journey? Like, it's sick that, you know, so many elite bodyboarders surf pretty good. Like I can even remember growing up, Bo Day was from the beach next door to me, and we'll get barreled at Cloud
I think he
Break.
lives around here now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There you go. And, you know, he'd be getting barreled at Cloud Break on a stick and shit. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, tripping on that. And I think Chris James surfs pretty good, and yourself. And, like, Noah's a good mate of yours, right? Like, Noah often talks about you, and now he's bodyboarding to, like, a decent-ish level, you know, like having a crack. And Harry, and, like, so there's a lot of back and forth between the equipment, as there should be. I don't think anything should be off limits.
No. Yeah, I think for me, surfing, I just kind of picked it up maybe 2 years ago. Like, I do it intermittently, like once every now and then. But like 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I was like, fuck, this is so hard. This is pissing me off, like really pissing me off. So then it kind of started that journey of just trying to get better and better and better. And, you know, to the point where I just want to get, you know, one freight train at Kira the whole way and just doing those proper parko weaves through the pit. That's my like goal. And then when I get there, I'll try to get another one. So I don't think it'll land, you know, that's just the goal. And it's just, once it gets you, you can't stop, you know, much to, you know, I still bodyboard every day, but it's like I'm learning so much more on a surfboard because I'm just a kook. So I'm trying to get better and better. So it's like so interesting. Any day, any chance I can get to my feet and feel where I'm at, it's like I feel like I'm advancing. So it's like that whole learning again is like the experience, you know. It helps to have like the wave knowledge and where to paddle out and things, which is, you know, epic. But still just do the kookiest things. Just go, wow, like how the fuck did I manage to get myself sucked over the falls with a leggy wrapped around my legs? Like shit that should never happen to you on like ever.
Oh, man, but it happens to everyone.
I got my arm caught in my own leggy. Shit like that. I'm like, well, I'm glad I got that one out of the way. That's never going to happen again. Twisting, like it's crazy.
It's crazy. I think I was in Indo on that big swell in October, and one of the biggest waves I caught I got the leggy caught between my fucking front foot. You know, that only happens every like fucking 3 months or something.
Yeah.
Or 6 months. I don't know. But like shit like that. There's weird glitches and for sure times where I've pulled back on a slab, just like not been in the spot and ended up sitting on my board and just going head first over the falls. Like,
well, that's crazy because I can't. If a leggy comes under my foot, the wave's done for me.
Pretty much, yeah.
But then I saw, I think it was Ethan Ewing against Felipe in the final, and he on his best wave, he has his leggy under his like left foot.
It's crazy.
And he's just ripping, and it's like he would have hated it. You can't not notice it, but he can still surf. I was like, fuck, he's got his leggy. That would, the clutch moment, and he surfed it so well, and his leggy's under his foot. It's like, it's annoying.
It's unbelievable. I mean, and that just goes to show like the touch of guys like Ewing.
Yeah, for sure.
So off the Richter scale, it's hard to fathom that they can mentally block something like that out and surf to an elite level and keep pace of Toledo with a leggy under their foot. It's
it's crazy.
It's crazy. You've got no control over that too. It's just a weird thing that just fucking the water will flick a certain way and the leggy will flick in front of your foot and you're fucked. Like,
and especially how they surf, like lifting your foot up is really going to affect your speed and where you needed to be. So it's like, I'm stuck with this, so it's like, but for me, it's like lifting my foot up means I'm falling behind that section.
Pretty much.
But it's just so addictive. It's such a different feel, like the glide you get, it's so different. I don't know how, I just want to get that one big freight train at Kira and then try to do it somewhere else.
Man, got to give props in the crossover world of surfers and bodyboarders. I don't think Noah McGee actually is impressive. He's been in the backdoor shootout a bunch of times and surf's good on a stand up at Pipe and stuff. But fucking Brett Hardy, I think he's had covers of both a bodyboarding and a surfing magazine.
No, Gene Hardy.
Yeah.
Gene, the oldest brother,
Right, surfs and bodyboarders.
Yeah, that is crazy,
But I think he's pretty sure he had an ASL cover at North Point or something.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy to think about that shit, man.
Yeah, like, and I think he's actually Gene's daughters, like, will be on the surfing.
Willow. Willow's amazing.
Yeah. So, they got a pretty big, like, Hardy kind of surfing fraternity going on over there.
Mate, one of the great surfing families and, so respected, despite Ryan Hardy, multiple world champ bodyboarder, is he?
Nah, he never won.
Oh, true.
No, he never won. He should have. It is just the nature of bodyboarding.
Right.
I think it's like so different to surfing in competition, where Ryan was, such good flow style, but it can come down to, just pit and, getting a ramp and there's not much. The bodyboarders do a lot of backflips, and I think 90% of the world titles have been won off that one move.
Right.
Whereas, it's he should have been world champion, a lot of times over.
Because he was the guy during the 2000s when the tensions were coming out and stuff. It seemed like the whole world was about Hardy. And I've heard you talk about he also produced what you reckon is kind of the peak of the sport at Chopes.
Yeah.
On one swell. What was he doing
I
there?
mean,
So impressive.
he's just like, out of all the guys I've seen, I don't know all the top kind of, big wave kind of guys but he's one guy I feel like he's the craziest guy I've ever met. Like he can surf the biggest waves with the most ease and just calculate it and just charges, properly charged. Like Brendo and Shane and that, they're maniacs. But Ryan surfs these waves like Laird toe jaws or something, and I've never seen anyone do that, the way he does, it's just crazy, I've seen him do stuff where I still haven't seen, the best big wave surfers have done, but he's had so many moments like that are unrecorded, undocumented, just be interesting. It would have been interesting to see what if he was in the same, had the same financial backing as say, even a Greg Long, or someone that, charged those Cortez or things like that, like what Ryan could have actually done if he was exposed to those types of things. Not that he couldn't have been, but it's a lot harder, when you don't have the backing, I think,
For sure. And what's the story there? I saw a clip by Damien King recently where he was claiming that the surf industry potentially killed off bodyboarding
Yeah,
for some
that's
reason.
full of shit.
Yeah.
I think that's full of shit. I think, like...
What was his take on it?
He thinks they would have sat around having like meetings to bring the demise of bodyboarding, but I personally don't think they,
And what's the motive, do you reckon?
just because it could have grown to be bigger than surfing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just don't think that. Yeah, I don't think they're worried or even thinking about it. I mean, at all. I mean, does the NRL get around and go, let's kill off rugby?
They kind of do.
Probably, but in Australia, but I don't know.
Those two codes fully do compete.
Yeah.
For players, resources, regions,
Yeah.
provinces. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, but I don't know if if they sat Billabong or Quicksilver and go, all right, we're gonna get a hold of this sport and just crush it.
Yeah. I mean, what strikes me as more weird is that they don't support it. Like, they haven't seen the value in sponsoring an athlete to basically ride the heaviest waves on earth. Like, I look at someone like Shane Ackerman and I'm like, why doesn't Red Bull or that's what they're into the outermost limits of what humans are capable of.
Yeah.
And for me, like, bodyboarding has set
Well,
the
it's just
benchmark.
not cool. It's not cool.
Yeah, well, that's a weird one though, isn't
Yeah,
it? Because especially when I was a Grom, like, it was cool. That's the other thing. I was like, and it was resourced financially by the companies at that point. But like, now not so much. But you'd still think there'd be like at least one guy who's on big money.
Well, there could be. I think it comes down to. I think about this a lot. Still, like, I think, like, in surfing, they've got such a culture behind it. Like, the old school guys, surfers that are in the clubs, they hang around, they talk story. Even on the drive down here, I was listening to the Surfers Journal, like, about Derek Donor, like, and the stories that they have. Whereas a lot of the bodyboarders, they get to a certain point and then they vanish. So there's not that storytelling and history that's staying within the sport as much as surfing. You can, like, with this podcast and other podcasts, you can listen to so many different stories of people around the world with their stories of surfing, what they do. And there's a lot of interesting people too, like, really interesting.
Yeah, but the crazy thing is bodyboarding has all that.
It does, but not the guys that
celebrate it.
Yeah, they don't celebrate it. The old school guys, like, aren't following that tradition as much. There is characters, but it's not well presented and it's not carried over.
Mate.
You can go to McTavish now and grab a coffee and probably piss him off if you want to talk to him. But there's guys that are so ingrained in surfing, whereas bodyboarding, they've got the characters, but they get to 27 or whatever it is and vanish, and they don't want nothing to do with the sport again.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It reminds me of, like, the way that certain racial groups around the world are kind of brainwashed by their colonizers into self-hatred, and like, then they want to take on the other culture because they think their own culture's rubbish or shit. Bodyboarding's kind of got this like collective insecurity complex where, like, because of the amount of shit that's been thrown their way by the stand-up surfing community, whether subconscious or whatever, at a certain point, bodyboarders like, nah, fuck, I've wasted my life. Like, I wish I had started surfing. Whereas I think that's like, I can appreciate wanting to do both for sure. I get that, but, like, I don't think you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think, like, in my mind, bodyboarding's super valid, and I like as a grown was actually kind of bummed that I surfed, because I like those tension films would come out.
Yeah.
I would see all these waves around my home that were fucking so skits. I would sit next to the guys surfing them who pioneered them, and be like, whoa, like I can't believe that, like.
Yeah.
That's you. Like, like I thought it was just so valid. I thought it was like way sicker. And yeah, it definitely isn't the case anymore. I don't know. Maybe it is. I still love bodyboarding videos. I feel like they're fucking hilarious. Like they're a full piss take. Like the energy's like real frenetic. It's like punk music. It's one hitters. It's just like you watch like a wave that would be like a closer in a Russ Björk section. You can go back to like the early 2000s and watch a bodyboarding video, and there's 30 of them fucking back to back.
It's
wild.
For sure.
You're going, what the hell? To the point where the bummer is you actually do get a bit desensitized to what's going on, because you're just watching like 30 fucked up ones at depot in a row, and you're just like, well, like, fuck, like the first one was psycho, but now I've seen 30 in a row, like that they've kind of lost their impetus and power a bit, or maybe they just don't have the resources to shoot them, or the technology at that point to shoot them slow-mo on a fucking red cam and like actually show what's going on. They're shot shaky cam from some tinny on a fucking handy cam. But all that shit's so sick, I reckon.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it just just comes back to that storytelling again, you know, like why it's not, you know, why we don't get backed, or, you know, but I don't know, it doesn't make sense that guys like Shane, because that give them some backing, the guy will probably die if he gave him money, you know, like maybe, you know, imagine what he would do, you know, like it's crazy,
mate. And we're having that yarn, like he crashed at mine for a couple of nights, and we're kind of brainstorming, and because he's tight with, you know, Russ and Nate Florence and stuff, and I was like, whoa, fuck, John and Nate have their own company now. Like, why aren't you on the Slab tour with Nate? Like, he should be. Like, they're good friends. They surf the same waves. They're sharing intel a lot of the time. And it also kind of, you know, in a funny way, I was like, maybe like surfing is to bodyboarding what like the you know, Rolling Stones were to like black blues music. Like it's full cultural appropriation. Like, like the surfers are going to these bodyboarding locations, using all the intel and making a living off surfing these bodyboarding waves without even acknowledging that they've already been surfed for 20 years by bodyboarders. And
it's funny because I remember Billabong, they were like, I think I was the last rider there, and they were kind of like, oh yeah, we love bodyboarding, but we don't know what to do with it. That's what they said. And by then I was already like, oh yeah, I've had an epic run. So it's like, I don't know, like they could own the sport for $100,000. You know, that's the crazy thing.
That's crazy.
It's like, it's not millions. It's like you could run the world tour for like $200,000 and own the whole freaking sport. You know, everything. You know, probably. You know, it's not like, you know, this this over expensive thing to get into. It's like, so that part doesn't make sense to me, where someone hasn't picked it up or done something with it. But then I just think that, you know, that storytelling, the history, and people keeping that alive is like such a big thing for surfing where it is now. You know?
And it surely just comes down to like bodyboarders not being proud of their culture.
Maybe,
There's a bit of a shame
like that,
because the culture itself is like that. Bodyboarders don't celebrate themselves even when they get fucked up waves. Like there's the whole thing's like so sarcastic and piss takey, and everyone's riding off all the time. And so like it makes sense that like if that's the bedrock of the culture, then you're not gonna like go out and fucking build these media empires and magazines and tell your story in this earnest schmaltzy way that surfing's fucking so unapologetic about. Like, especially the American surf media, they're just like so serious, just blowing smoke up their own ass, like talking up like their incredible achievements, celebrating themselves in a way that's like so incongruous with bodyboarding culture. But maybe that's why surfing has managed to continue to flourish is because these guys are just unashamedly fucking blowing smoke up each other's asses.
Yeah, it was funny. Like, even I was looking at, I think it was Clohe was like blowing up at Julian about something he did at Trestles. Like, it was some Instagram thing, and it was Julian said, it was a full joke. It was like Julian showing how to surf Trestles, like, it was something like that, and then it was like a full blow up erupted. And I was like, who gives a fuck what they say? Like, it's just talking about surfing, you know, it's not like serious. Of course hasn't been the best surfer out there. You know, everyone knows that. It's just like stupid, but there's a full rage on it about that. So, yeah, Chloe I don't know, he looks like he's earned a lot of money out of surfing.
Oh my God, dude.
He should be stoked with everything.
He was on like a million
I think he seems like a really cool guy. Like, he's like, you know, on that, those how surfers get paid. Like, I was talking to Todd, and he goes, yeah, he's an absolute legend. Todd Barnes, who filmed it all. And
another pretty elite bodyboarder.
And you're saying, like, Geordie Smith is just absolutely hilarious. Like, the shit he said off camera is just unbelievable. Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's one of the things that, like, fuck, man, surfing took itself so seriously when I was a Grom. I found it that fucking pathetic.
Yeah, right.
Like, just like the surf films and stuff. Like, I had them all, and I watched the fuck out of them.
Yeah.
But it took itself so seriously. But that was like also, in a weird way, like such a recipe for why it was successful.
Yeah.
Whereas bodyboarding, it just didn't take itself seriously.
No, it didn't take itself.
And to me, that was connected more with my understanding of culture and what's important, and being Australian as well. Like, I feel like the culture here doesn't take itself very seriously. Like, it's a pretty right-off degenerate fucking culture, and it gelled more with me. That humor and that style, like the tension films, man. Like, talk to us about them. I imagine you had waves and a ton of them, and like, were you a part of the shenanigans? Like, the shenanigans from those films were fucking hilarious. And to see like elite, like the creme de la creme of the sport, like walking through a supermarket and tackling a fucking stack of Easter eggs or some shit. Was, like,
I mean, I wasn't too a part of that, but like, I saw it all, and there was definitely some wild characters. Like, so it made, like, I think Whitey like sold. There's another, you know, I've heard he sold like 27,000 copies of the first Tension.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, that's
that
not
is
surprising at all.
Like City Beach and that, all surf dive, all those brothers Nelson, all those guys were like, you know, this is the highest selling surf film ever.
Wow.
So it's like, it just went off. Like, I guess it's, you know, the CKY, those
skate
guys.
one, influenced by that.
Yeah, so.
And Whitey's just mental skater too, right?
Yeah. Like, super talented, kind of everything he does, you know.
Jiu-jitsu black belt from memory?
Yeah, I think so.
That's fucking psycho.
Yeah, and another bodyboarder that, you know, I talk to all the time, Jake Stone. He's a really, really good skater. And funny story, like, in at Billabong when I was there, like the front shop, they thought I was a surfer, and it went too far that I couldn't tell them that I was a bodyboarder, even though there was a bodyboard picture in the shop of me. This one time I was getting a wedgie, and I was going to Victoria. It just happened to be at the same time Bell's contest was on. So the guy thought I was going to Bell's. He goes, how many boards you bring? And I'm like, just a couple. Just didn't have the heart to tell him, mate. I'm just like... And then one day I seen him at Greenmount or something, and he double taked, and I was like, and I just didn't not look at him. I just kept staring at him, and he was like, "Is that?" And then like later on, and Jake is a really good skater. He was skating the Billabong ramp, and he was better than the Billabong skaters at the time. Whoa. So they thought he was a skater. So it was just like so many of that at Billabong. It was just like, we were like the full-on red-headed stepchild.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. It's not fair, though. It doesn't, as the red-headed stepchild will tell you, like, it doesn't really make any logical sense. Like, it's so weird. You want to hide this fact from this dude, because as soon as you tell him, he'll be like, oh, you're a bodyboarder.
Oh, yeah, it was like...
But then it's like, if you show him a fucking clip or a photo, or if they see you in one of those lineups, they'll be like, what the fuck? This cunt's loose.
Yeah, it was hilarious. Like, it... But that's what made us less serious, because we just, you know, you didn't care. If you're not, the thing with bodyboarding, you're not doing it to be cool. You know, there's so many, you know, surfers or skaters that are doing it to be cool, and they're just, you know, it wouldn't be fun, you know. So whenever you see a bodyboarder, they're doing it because they love it, not because they're, you know, trying to be cool. Because we're like the freaking rollerbladers of the of the ocean. I remember losing it. Like, a guy told me he used to be like a semi-professional rollerblader and he was a bodyboarder.
Oh,
And me and Jake were just rolling on the ground, just going, mate, like, your life's been hard, hasn't it? Like, it was an amazing combination of like sports all gelling together. It was just like,
yeah. But no rollerblader except for that guy ever got blown out of an 8-foot cone.
nah.
And most surfers will spend their lives having not done that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And I wonder whether a lot of people quit bodyboarding purely for the fact that, like, for that exact reason, like, they'd have to tell their girlfriend or the chick that they were courting that they bodyboarded. And, like, in the eyes of the mainstream, bodyboarding is like the rollerblading of the ocean. But for those who actually spend time in the ocean, it's not that. Like, including like your Mick Fannings and shit. Like, people who do put their time in understand what it is properly.
There's definitely like, it's been so long that I've cared, but it's like definitely situations like that for sure. Like, where it's just total like form of racism. Yeah. Like 100%. You're just like, whoa, this is like so gnarly. Like, you're just this second rung citizen of, like, you know, it's really bizarre. But I guess that builds like some thick skin and you kind of ignore it and, you know, you just get on with it. But it's, definitely places where you're just like, you're not welcome or, it's a weird, just a weird combination of like, being not cool and not being with the in crowd, or I don't know. It's just different, isn't it? That's weird.
Yeah, I feel like your average everyday conditions are exactly the kinds of conditions where some kind of like mediocre fucking meat and potato surfer is just gonna hate on bodyboarders because those kinds of conditions, like, they're just going to use it as an excuse to extort resources from you. It really is classic colonialism. Yeah. Where it's like, fucking make this person feel insecure, like they're not worthy, like they don't deserve their share of the resources, and then I can get more of them, and then like I can drop in on this person, and like we can form this kind of club and make them feel like shit. And like it works like that. And many bodyboarders just get, like, after years of that form of abuse.
Just, what is it? The freaking Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, pretty much. They begin to believe it.
Yeah, it was funny. I think it was your podcast with Zeke. Did you have Zeke? Yeah. So my mate was the one that had the boxing match with him. So it was like, that we're printing some shirts for him. It was like, Lungi's cousin.
That's right.
Yeah. But it was crazy. Like, it was cool that he did that and actually rocked up to the boxing gym. But it was like, that was one of my mates.
That's crazy. Someone else was telling me that story who's also mates of him. Yeah. And, like, that's such a classic bit of fucking folklore. I love that happened.
Yeah.
That's so, like, so Australian. And that Zeke fronted up to cop his hidings even better. And the dude was saying to me, he's like, when your mate told him that story, he didn't believe him. He's like, fuck off. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. And then he heard Zeke's side of the story. And he's like, no way, it didn't happen.
Yeah, fully happened. So, but even that guy's interesting, you know, Zeke. It's like, you know, he's just going for it, isn't he? He's like, making a career out of surfing, you know, like with everything he's doing. It's like pretty impressive, you know, that you can do that.
Yeah. And what about the future, man? Like, what does life look like for you now?
I mean, I'm trying, like, I got a screen printing business and just trying to create like a brand, you know, like trying to combine like bodyboarding, surfing, screen printing, and kind of just trying to celebrate all of those at once, you know, bring back some manufacturing here to Australia. And just trying to get better at surfing, really. And I don't know. That keeps me really, busy, so I'm trying to just organise my life. Well, like I was listening to Ty Graham's podcast, and he was saying how surfing was the North Star for him the whole way through, and I'd say probably for the last 10 years I've kind of lost my way with that. The surfing was always the thing I went to. It still is, but like I went through a gnarly separation, and my son's in Tasmania, and all I wanted to do was be with my son, but that was really difficult. So that took me away from it, and then I was like, didn't have sponsors, so I had to start a business and learn business, and then all of that stuff that goes along with just battling through all of that, trying to coming from professional surfing, which I thought was hard, when it's fucking not. You know what I mean? Like, you're getting paid to surf, and you're like, oh, fuck, I got to get on a plane to Fiji. Are you kidding me? I got to go through checkout. Like, it's like, man, it's so easy. Like, I get it that it gets tiring, and, but it's the best way someone can live their life. It's not all, like, rosy in that. That shit happens, but it's like, you get into the so-called real world or whatever, it's a lot harder to figure things out.
Mate, it's crazy how many stresses there are, how the matrix, like electrodes, are just connected to you, sapping your money and time and energy, creating stress. And then at the end of the day, or the end of the week, you finally get into the lineup, and some pro surfers like taking waves off you.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, you want to be able to, I just want to be able to surf more and have a good business, and just surf more. Like, I feel like I've gotten away from that a lot, which is not good for, someone that, has done it their whole life and loves it. And especially now, I'm surfing a lot more, trying to learn. It's like, I really want to learn more. So it's like, just trying to surf more and run a good business. That excites me. I like, all those new brands like Formo and, John's brand, and, Julian's, and all those different brands that are like still really core surfing, that I want to be like that. I like designing stuff. I like making stuff, and hopefully I can gel all that into, a really good, brand and story, and just surf more. That's the goal.
That's exciting, man. I love that, and I think the time is ripe for that, for a bit of a renaissance in bodyboarding culture. Why wouldn't you be the man to lead it?
It'd be good. I just hope can
bodyboarding / ocean / surf culture.
It'd be good, just be
whatever genre it falls under.
Just be able to like earn enough money to surf more. That's the goal.
Sick.
Yeah,
mate, that'll work out for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, bro.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.